Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
How about that cigar?
Well, how about that cigar?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Corona Cigar Studios for episode 254 of How About That Cigar Live. Thank you so much for joining us live on. I'm losing track. There are so many live places. YouTube,
Facebook, Instagram. My favorite, Rumble, and X.
So if you guys are watching, X is
formerly known as
the artist formerly known as Twitter.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Exactly.
Who is this guy?
So if you guys are watching us live, share us out with your favorite groups. Let everybody know we're live. And of course, join us in the comments. Let us know what you're smoking. Let us know what you're drinking. We have an awesome show coming up. And thank you, as always, of course, to the audio podcast listeners as well for making How About That Cigar part of your regular audio podcast rotation. It is a warm evening here in beautiful Minnesota.
Warm. It's fucking hot.
It's fucking hot.
It's fucking hot.
And live in studio. Do not adjust.
This pale guy.
Do not adjust your sets. We have Brandon from Apostate Cigars sitting. We have a Brandon sandwich. We have an Apostate sandwich.
I was hoping I'd be in the middle.
Yeah. I mean that's just how we do.
HBTC.
That's just how we do.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. So where's that mysterious voice coming from?
Puffing away over there. Can we get Mr. Justin Smoke?
How about that cigar apostate sandwich you guys got going on? He's the cream in the middle, it looks like. So
definitely the cream. What else?
Wow.
Come on over.
Well,
I'm coming.
Yeah, at some point Justin's gonna have to come over just to
enjoy the sandwich.
Yeah, I gotta pour my whiskey here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Enjoy the sandwich. All right, so
what are we doing tonight?
Because tonight is the Industry Hive Mind. We're going to cut short our normal intro conversation as far as, all right, so short version. Twins are on a hot streak. We beat the Phillies in a series, which is kind of amazing because they're the best team in baseball.
Now they're going to lose to the White Sox.
Now we're probably going to lose to the White Sox, and
Yankees still suck right now.
Well, they're in second place but they're only a game back.
Suck for
they're only a game back.
Expectations.
They're only a game back. It's all right. The Twins are 4.5 games back. So you're fine.
And I'm still beating Hector by 5 games.
That's right. Well, and the Twins have to play the Mets next. Is actually who we're up against. I might
have to cheer for the Twins.
There you go. Make a little side bet with Hector. Jordan Love got paid. So my
Jordan
quarterback,
got capital P, paid.
Yes.
And Aaron Rodgers is not hurt yet.
And not yet. Give it time.
Is he playing yet?
What's the over under? Actually, we'll save that. We'll save that for later. Yeah, we'll save that for all the guests.
Hey, who are you again?
Nobody.
Yeah, who is this guy?
This guy right here.
Yeah,
I just talked to. This is Brandon from Apostate Cigars.
Okay,
live in studio, traveled all the way.
I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize him without his smooth hat that he's been wearing all.
I can't put the cans on with the hat.
Yeah, you got.
I know, but that fucking hat is so.
It's a good hat.
We'll have the hat make an appearance.
The more of my face that's hidden, the better.
And real quick, before we go any further, everybody needs to remember September 12th, Cigars and Baseball 2024 at CHS Field in St. Paul. Tickets are still available. Go to cigarsbaseball.com. Cigarsbaseball.com. You can register for tickets there. And not only will you get some fantastic cigars from some great brands, you will get some lovely spirits from some local distilleries, great local brews from local microbreweries, and great food. And How About That Cigar will be there live covering the entire event. And the most important thing about the money that goes to this event, it all goes to the Miracle League, which builds baseball facilities for kids with disabilities. So not only are you going to have a great time herfing with some great local people, you'll be able to watch live baseball on the field while you smoke your cigars. And you'll be giving to a fantastic cause.
And someone else used this last week. This is the best event in Minnesota cigar community.
It really is.
By far, hands down. The other person that said that was wrong if he's watching.
Sorry. Well, let's jump into real quick the Spirit of Mystery. Brandon and I are both partaking this evening in the Spirit of Mystery.
And who's that brought to us by?
Yeah, thank you. The Spirit of Mystery brought
That's
to
why
us
he's
by
our producer.
Postania Cigars. Do you find yourself unsatisfied with the top 10 list from How About That Cigar? Are you wondering how cigars from Postania didn't make the HBTC list, but found their way onto other lists? Well, fortunately, you can be reminded every week with this Postania Cigars advertisement. Postania Cigars, the #1 unranked cigar in the industry.
And this week's Spirit of Mystery is a Kentucky bourbon that was finished in a red wine barrel.
All right. So Brandon and I were both talking before we went live, and we both find this spirit to be a little on the cloudy
It's
side.
cloudy.
Yeah.
Chance of rain.
Have you given it a little?
I gave it a little sip.
What do you think of it so far?
It might be
So much softer than I expected.
It might be that thing called famunda that's making it
Oh,
cloudy.
my favorite cheese.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got good texture, which I appreciate.
It's shockingly soft, though.
But it's mild.
Mhm.
I do get a little bit of that kind of red wine funk on the back end.
On the finish.
But yeah, I think it's got good sweetness. So we'll keep drinking it as the show goes, and we'll get a reveal on what this Spirit of Mystery is later in the show.
I'll have an educated guess. For
I
you
have
by
one
the end
other
of the show.
question for you guys.
Yeah,
Do
right
you
on.
think following that with the scotch has anything to adjust that flavor or change that flavor?
Following this with a scotch?
Or following the scotch with that?
Oh, the scotch we had before
yeah.
this.
No, I don't think so. My palate got pretty clear.
Yeah, it's been a little
before
while.
we got
Okay.
into this.
Just checking.
No, I'm feeling pretty clean. Yeah.
All right.
Good palate check, though. Nice job.
All right.
Thanks for caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump into our main event of the evening. And as always, our main event brought to us by our friends at Drew Estate. And following the resounding success of Blackened Cigars M81 Maduro, Drew Estate announced the new Blackened S84 Shade 2 Black, wrapped in a luxurious Connecticut Ecuador cover leaf. The experience of this expression is distinctly different from the original M81 Maduro, while still retaining its foundational qualities due to the Connecticut Maduro binder and filler leaves from Pennsylvania and Nicaragua. Presented in elegantly designed 20-count boxes, Blackened S84 Shade to Black by Drew Estate is available in Robusto, Toro, Corona Doble, and Corona. For more information, please visit drewestate.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please put your hands together and help us out. Welcome to the show. First of all, from Roma Craft Tobacco, Skip Martin. Welcome back to the show, brother.
How you doing, man?
Fantastic. And next up, from Developing Palates, the cigar surgeon himself, John McTavish. Welcome back, brother.
What's going on? Go Jets.
And
Atta baby.
there you go. And from Half Wheel, please welcome first time appearance on How About That Cigar Live, Brooks Whittington. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, what's going on?
It is a beautiful evening, sir. Thank you so much for being on the show with us.
No problem at all. Happy to be here.
So quickly, let's go around the horn and talk about what everybody is smoking and drinking. Skip, let's start with you. What are you smoking and drinking this evening?
I am smoking a Whiskey Rebellion Husband and drinking Dr. Pepper Zero.
Very nice.
And I'm testing to see if you can possibly overdose on Benadryl. So I'm on like 300 milligrams of Benadryl.
Woo. Poison ivy cocktail.
Nice. I cannot wait to hear from Benadryl Skip. I think that's like next level. That's next level shit right there. All right. John McTavish, what are you smoking and drinking, brother?
I went into the Tickle Trunk and I got out the Blackwork Studio. This is the Green Hornet Lancero. This is specifically from the Hive box. My good friend and colleague Jay Davis from Blue Smoke of Dallas had a little something in the back, and I picked that up. And this is actually the first one I've lit up from the box. I figured tonight would be a great night, and I'm pairing it with something interesting. A local distillery, Wildlife. It's a rye whiskey, and this is not some Nancy whiskey. It's 88% rye and 12% barley, and it's delicious. It's what is the proof on this? It's 45.9% ABV. So. What is that? 90? No, that's 100.8. Is that right? I can't. That's the one I can't convert to on the fly.
Well, there's no math on this show. It's okay. There's no
Fair
math.
enough.
Brooks, let us know what you're smoking and drinking, brother.
Well, in honor of Skip Martin, I went into my humidor, I guess, big ass cooler, and I found something that he may recognize or may not. He's pretty drunk at the time. But about 2019, 2018, we did a trade for like craft beer back when craft beer was a thing, and traded some craft beer for one of these. I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. And so I thought I'd bring that out and smoke that. Remember that, Skip?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that.
You remember what it is?
I even remember the beer we traded for. It was the
Oh wait! It was Prairie. There was the Prairie Barrel beer, right?
maybe it was that. I thought it was the one from the Trillium coffee one, the espresso one.
Oh, that too. That was a good one.
Nice.
And
I got a
Sorry?
weird noise from somebody. It's not me. I muted. It's not me. So
Yeah, I think somebody's got. It may be our exhaust fan. I think
I think it's like wind or something. Or
yeah, it could be.
One thing to mention is I do have because I don't know how long we're going to go, but I do have a Mode 5 Chromag on standby here, just waiting for me.
nice.
So hopefully I can get to that.
And to drink, I went into Charlie's and I suppose mine too, if you want to technically talk about it.
No, we'll call it Charlie's stack.
And got some Diplomatico Ambassador.
I love that.
There you go.
What year is it? That's
a
one of
good
my
question.
favorite runs.
Let me find that
I
out.
love
Will I?
Diplomatico.
What does it say here?
It's 2000.
I have no idea. Let me get back to you on that, buddy.
Diplomatico pairs brilliantly with cigars.
Piss him off. Take a slick from
that
the bottle.
goes great with Coke, by the way.
Indeed.
Yes, the best.
Go get
the
some
most
Coke right now.
Rums in the world go great with Coke. Absolutely. All right,
that
Justin, what are you smoking this evening?
Right now, I have the Apostate Sword of Laban.
Nice.
Did I say it right? Laban?
Laban.
Laban, got it.
Close enough.
And then on deck, we got the Robocraft Volstead.
Hell yeah.
Raul, what do you got fired up?
Yeah, I can't see this shit. I think one's a Santa Muerte,
You got the Santa Muerte.
and then what's this one?
That's the Zarahemla from Apostate. How about that?
You don't
There
have
we
your
go.
you don't
Thank
have your
you.
glasses.
I don't have my glasses.
Yeah.
With me. It's killing me.
Yeah.
I'm getting myself a fucking headache trying to read these. Yeah, thanks.
And Brandon,
I'm rocking the Apostate Leona right now. I just finished up a black label that Raul gave me. It was fantastic. It's this year's Hawaii, so it's really good.
nice. And I am going to also follow suit with Justin. I'm going to fire up the Sword of Laban
Nice.
on the Cigar Toast Cam.
Pay them bills, baby.
Cigar is the leading cigar accessory brand with innovative butane lighters, precision cigar cutting instruments, travel cases, and humidors. Each product is designed and manufactured with the utmost precision and attention to detail. The result is a range of products that exude quality and refinement, reflecting the brand's dedication to excellence. For more information, please visit Cigar.com. All right, let's jump right.
So I want to make an apology ahead of time. I got off shift this morning. I ain't slept yet. So if I'm a little more annoying than normal, deal with it.
It's a low bar, bro.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, we haven't
Spicy in the studio tonight.
It's already spicy. It's already spicy.
Ooh.
All right, so
Fucking hard.
let's jump right in. So just a little bit past the halfway point of 2024. How's everything going with the cigar business right now? And I want to start with Brooks because it is Brooks' first time
Please
on
don't.
the show.
Please
Oh, I'm
don't.
absolutely going to start with you, Brooks, because
I really just wanted to sit here and not talk.
that is not how this all goes. You know that, brother. So, just what are your thoughts on the first half of 2024 from a general cigar business perspective?
Well, from a business perspective, things are going well for us. But I think you're talking about the actual cigar business. I think that, we've had reports on the site that say that the imports of cigars are, doing very, very well compared to previous quarters. And I really don't think that that is showing any signs of softening at the moment. Certainly Skip can tell you probably more about that from a manufacturer's perspective. We've had some problems, at least I have personally, with construction issues with various, cigars and across lines and across factories and things of that nature. And it's been on the site. It's fairly well documented by this point. We've had a number of cigars that have reached the top, the contention for top 25 on our site, and we're well within what we should be at this point of the year. So I think it's going down gangbusters in terms of every metric that I can think that I can talk about in a personal way.
Okay, and also because it's your first time on the Hive Mind show, Brandon. What you could talk about yourselves and what you're also seeing just in general from the cigar industry as a whole. What are you seeing so far in the first half of 2024?
I'm gonna agree with Brooks. I mean, I really, as far as manufacturing goes, I can only speak for my experience. Imports are up for this year over last year, but we are a new company, so that's expected, right? But it seems to be similar for people I talk to in the biz. I think things are going well. The only real monkey wrench in the works for me this year, and for Apostate, is just us figuring out how to navigate the rest of the year after PCA in March. That July trade show was something that sort of helped you formulate what the year was going to look like. And this year we had to adjust that. And I think retailers had to adjust their approach too. I don't think it's hurt things. I just think it's made us change things. But as far as our experience is going, I think it's great. Every retailer I'm visiting is telling me they're having a killer year. I haven't talked to anybody who's down in the dumps about it. So I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to keep going. I think Brooks had it right. Everything's gangbusters right now.
Okay. I like the positivity.
All right, that's it. I'm out.
Let's see. Let's see if we can keep the positivity going with the Canadian. I mean, Canadians are always positive, right? So, John, what do you think?
Are they always positive? I don't know about that. Yeah, I like a lot of what Brooks said. I mean, obviously, I can't speak to manufacturers. I've also, in my little corner of the world, heard that exports have been pretty steady. I think people were expecting things to slow down. I don't think that's really been the case. I mean, some companies may have slowed down, but I think the industry as a whole has continued to just power through. We have also been writing about, extensive construction and burn issues that I think have kind of plagued the industry as a whole, and that's been going on for some time now. So I don't think there's been any signs of that dropping off. What I am pretty happy about is last year I predicted that the trade show would probably see a dip in the number of cigars that shipped after the trade show, and we were kind of making plans to fill in that gap because we weren't expecting to have cigars available for review. And I'm a liar, predicted incorrectly, and that's probably a good thing because it seems like everybody had the product out the doors, and in some cases in the shop before people got back from PCA, which is great. So that kind of gave us a really nice Q2, and going into Q3 seemingly good with lots of product to review, which is great. So far so good. If I can get my cigars, everything will be good.
That's always the hardest part, is actually getting those through good old Canadian customs. Gotta love it. Skip, what are your feelings and thoughts about thus far in 2024?
Well, for us, we are almost exactly like $50,000 different for the first 7 months than we were last year. But those numbers have a launch of a new brand and PCA earlier, right? So I know that. Here's what I can tell you from no one in the cigar business is going to tell you they're having a bad year unless they're having a really great year. Then they'll tell you, yeah, it's okay. Tobacco is a little easier to find than it was 6 months ago. Factories are letting kind of non-performing pairs go, which is always a sign that their demand is down. I know the big guys like JR cross-sold millions of dollars of inventory to Cigar Page, apparently. And then they all had this 35% off sale for like 2 weeks. And I know our numbers with the big guys are way down from COVID, right? They're kind of more back to where they were around 2019, which is good for us. But if you're one of these companies that sells 70% of your inventory to, the top 5 retailers, you're in a lot of trouble. So I can't tell you like why the exports would be the same, except that because generally, if demand in the U.S. is low, you don't export to the U.S. because once the inventory moves from the factory to the U.S., it costs 60 cents more per cigar, right? So you basically are putting more money into inventory by staging it in the U.S. instead of keeping it outside. Um, so my guess is you're going to see a really slow second half of the year across the board. Europe is up for us about 100%. So to the extent that we had a little bit of extra inventory, we were able to ship that over to the EU, and that's moving really well. Again, that goes back to I think the pricing for and the inventory challenges that Habanos is having. Retailers are a lot more open these days to carrying a New World cigars. But in terms of, I think there's a lot of. I've seen more retailers closing this year than I've ever seen since we started doing this. I think people increased their cost structures for this boom that came around COVID, and then now they're out of whack in terms of their P&L. So you see big companies cutting back cars for their sales guys, cutting back travel, cutting back the number of salespeople, cutting back their bonuses and commissions. So those are all kind of like early indicators of a soft market in the second half. No matter what anyone tells you, that's pretty much across the board. You're seeing that. You don't see buy 5 get 2 or buy 10 get 3, in 60-day term deals from these big companies if they're if they don't have anything to sell, right? So I think it's going to be a challenging second half.
So I'm curious I want to obviously get thoughts from everybody about this, but going back to Skip first on this next question, because I don't really know the ins and outs of, the stuff you were talking about, Skip, with Cigar Page. I honestly don't know the deep ins and outs of like how some of these, these big online discounters, I don't know how the sausage is made. And from a consumer standpoint, me as 90% consumer and 10%, whatever else you want to call me, how does it genuinely affect the consumers, from a standpoint of product availability and pricing and sort of knowledge of new brands and upcoming brands and medium brands and that kind of thing? From a standpoint of, are these massive discount online retailers in the very, very long run good or bad for the consumer?
I think they're good for the consumer. Because look, cigars are, regardless of what anyone else tells you, cigars are one of the few things that still get sold at Keystone margin, which is basically 50% margin or 100% markup or 45% margin, whatever you want to call it. So from a consumer perspective, when I started smoking, for me, if a retailer is willing to accept 30-40% margin, and you're getting the product 20-25% off of MSRP, and it's the same quality product that you can find locally, that's good in the short run for the consumer. But I think cigar smokers in general are built, and the culture itself is maintained by the local brick and mortar. And so the more pressure the local brick and mortar gets, and the less effective they are, that's not good for the business in the long run, right? So they say some quick numbers. I don't know if these numbers are accurate, but these are kind of rules of thumb that I go by. They say 70% of all cigars are sold online or through the mail. Now that includes all the Thompson bundles and everything else, right? But I would say of the 30% that's left over, let's say 60% of the cigars sold in the U.S., the 400 million whatever cigars, are sold by the big five guys: JR, CI, Cigar Page, Famous, and those kinds of companies, right? Then below that, you've got about 20, 25 national retailers that have big websites like Smoke Inn and Corona and Two Guys and places like that, right? They probably sell 15 to 20% of the cigars that are sold in the U.S., I would guess, between those 20, 25 stores. So if they say there's 3,000 retail shops with walk-in humidors. So if 25 or 30 retailers sell 80% of the cigars in the United States, that means 1% of the retailers sell 80% of the cigars, right? So it's an average. Years ago, PCA came out with like a survey that the average brick and mortar retail store did $400 and something thousand a year in premium cigars. That has to be more than that now, but an average, I would think, of a decent local brick and mortar store would be about $1 million. And, they have one general manager, and they have, after that, about 10%, net income. So, they're not making crazy money in these stores. Even if the owner operator is the general manager, he's only making, $150,000 a year or whatever, if that. So, it is definitely a small mom and pop kind of business. So, to me, that's where new smokers come from. And then they kind of slowly migrate towards price. But then, the faster that happens, I think the less engagement you get. And you see a lot of guys that used to be around 5 or 10 years ago that were, kind of the guys in the industry that you knew that smoked, a cigar or two every day. Those guys, you just don't see them around the shops as much as you used to. So there definitely is a big shift. And, I don't know if it's good for the business, but I know, the business itself, the quality of the cigars reached a point where there's a lot of background noise. The cigars themselves reached a point where the quality was better than it ever has been. But the prices have creeped up. So I think finding value is the reason why a lot of people do go to those, places like Cigar Page. And if I'm a cigar smoker and I want to smoke 2 a day, maybe that's where I get my cigars.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brooks, are you seeing some of the same things, kind of the shifting, of or maybe not the shifting, maybe it's just the status quo is continuing as far as, online discounters versus, online, smaller presence online retailers, and then down to the local brick and mortars as far as where a lot of cigar smokers are getting their cigars from?
So look, that's not my business, right? I mean, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert when it comes to brick and mortar stores or even online stores for that matter. But certainly, it's hard to be a brick and mortar store for most people in this country, and it's just going to get worse as the larger catalogs and websites continue to discount cigars and have more of a presence online. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And I don't think that's really saying, it's not exactly a surprise to anybody, I'd imagine. But I don't think that's going to change. I think it's only going to get worse, and that's basically my bottom line on that. I'm not knowledgeable enough to be able to tell you anything about margins or anything of that nature when it comes to brick and mortar stores. I just don't know enough about it, to be honest with you.
Okay. John, and you're in a different market. Obviously, the Canadian market is strange and mysterious to me. But also it's there's a lot of places where, whether we're talking about Canada or Europe or Asia, that most of our viewers and listeners are in the United States, but we have plenty from outside of the US. So are things kind of the same in Canada as far as where consumers get their cigars from, or does it depend on the space in Canada, or how does it look up there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the retail space in Canada is going to be very similar to Europe. You've got a very challenging market to work in, both from a legislative perspective, but also from a tax perspective. So, in the United States, you can buy a product either directly from a company or through a distributor. In Canada and in Europe, you can only buy your products from a approved distributor. So, you're already talking about a narrowed stream of who controls your inventory flow, and that immediately creates some challenges, because if they don't carry a particular product that you want to carry, you simply can't carry that product. So you've already narrowed the available product available for the market. On top of that, you've got significant taxes, and that, that's true of anywhere outside of the United States. And I always chuckle when people talk about saving a couple bucks online, and I just kind of roll my eyes, because to me, $1 or $2 in a cigar is meaningless. Like, I know, I'm not trying to downplay people's spend, but for us, $1 or $2 in a cigar doesn't even cover sales tax. The actual tobacco tax for Canada, typically we call it 360%. So if you take the MSRP of a cigar down in the United States, tack on about 360%, and that's what it retails for in Canada. So you've essentially got premium cigars on the shelf anywhere from, call it $22 to $35. If it's a Habanos product, because Habanos has either lost their mind or embraced capitalism, depending on how you look at it, prices $55, $75, $150, $200. And in Canada, because we've had a very strong anti-smoking contingent for a very long time, there's also very few places to smoke. And as you gentlemen are well aware, being where you are, the winter is a very harsh mistress. It is a very long mistress. And so it's like motorcycle season. If you own a motorcycle, you've got a very small window of opportunity to ride your motorcycle. If you smoke cigars and you aren't crazy like me and have an indoor lounge because you've got a very forgiving wife, there's very few places you can smoke. So in a retail environment in Canada, the model is you come in, you're handled as you go into the humidor, because you can't touch product without purchasing it. You can't be in the humidor without having someone there to assist. And then you buy your product and you leave. You can't light up in the store. The owners can't light up in the store. The staff can't light up in the store. And I mean, that certainly makes a very challenging market, and that's intentionally designed that way. I mean, they want the taxes from tobacco, while at the same time they're pressuring that industry to essentially go out of business. So all of that said, it's remarkable that there's a lot of B&Ms across Canada that have managed to do very well for themselves. They consistently do business, and there's distributors that are bringing in new brands. I mean, we just saw out of the PCA, there was a number of smaller boutique companies that are now being carried in Canada, which is great. I think the Canadian market has been screaming for new inventory, because a lot of SKUs got dropped as a result of plain packaging. For those who aren't aware of plain packaging, it's essentially your normal band on a cigar is either covered or removed with this ugly green plain band that it's intended to stop you, as if someone looks at a cigar band and goes, man, that looks really cool. I think I'm going to start smoking cigars. That's kind of how the legislative branch thinks.
It's
so
magic.
It's magical. Yeah. You see a Cro-Mag band and you're like, man, I really want to light that cigar up. That band really speaks to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened, but that's how they think. So it's very anti-manufacturer friendly. It's very anti-retail friendly, and yet retailers have managed to continue to do well and continue to turn product, which is great. And I hope that they continue on. We'll see how that goes in the future. There's always something around the corner hindering their business, for sure.
Well, and Brandon, this question for you, being a younger, newer brand, how do you, when you're in Minnesota right now, you're making the rounds at shops and stuff like that. You've done that at multiple cities, for the last few years. How do you approach looking at retailers? How do you approach, trying to, convince retailers to carry your product? And in the same vein, what we've been talking about with the big discounters, have you been approached by any of the big discounters saying, oh yeah, sell us your whole inventory and we'll buy it for 35 cents a cigar or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's multifaceted because we come from retail too.
Yeah.
Right? So we've felt the pain on that side of the counter as well. In Utah, where we're from, they actually outlawed online sales. So retailers got a little bit of a boost that way in Utah. For me, ultimately, our philosophy is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. It is like Skip said, and I'll defer to him because he's got way more experience than I do. Good for the consumer to buy online, but to me, that feels short term. Ultimately, what's bad for the retailer is in the long run going to be bad for the consumer. The retailer, the brick and mortar, that's the heart and soul of the cigar industry in the United States. And I think the more we can do to foster that and keep brick and mortar happy and keep them thriving, the better the industry is going to be overall. But like Brooks said, obviously that's probably something that's going to get worse as time goes on. So how do you combat that? Well, you've got membership pricing, or you've got, monthly, incentives and stuff like that certain retailers are doing. There's a number of answers. It depends on your market, depends on the retailer. I think the ones that are thriving are the ones who are getting creative. And I think COVID led to a lot of that. Ultimately, for me, what I'm seeing is maybe people are just trying to paint a pretty picture, and maybe they're trying to tell me they're doing better than they are. But I see a lot of retailers who are experiencing a resurgence the last 2 or 3 years, and hopefully that carries forward. But yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm Team Skip and Team Brooks with this one. I think it's online is ultimately going to be something that's always appealing if it's available as a consumer, because pricing is hard. Prices keep going up. But man, nothing beats what a brick and mortar shop does for the culture.
Yeah.
So I got a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Are you in Canada? Or
Not
are you
yet.
planning?
We would love to be in Canada. We're working on distribution there. We're not there yet.
And when it comes
I know a few guys if you need a.
Yeah, John.
You do.
Yeah, John's got a history in the retail market in Canada.
Absolutely. We'll talk, buddy.
Sounds good.
And so this kind of goes into, and I think pretty much everybody mentioned it on this last question. So it begs the question kind of to go further. For me, what I'm seeing is, because we had the big COVID boom, everybody was smoking a ton of cigars, sales were going up like crazy. That's when this show started. This Hive Mind show started in during, the COVID boom. And we saw consumption go up like crazy. Well, now we're seeing consumption go down, yet we're seeing prices go up. So, from a pure standpoint, not to get back to like, your college econ 101 class, but that doesn't seem to math, so Skip, I want to start with you on this. Why is it that consumption is going down and prices are going up?
Well, I mean, this is one of the things I was talking about on Facebook the other day when everybody lost their mind. But so let me give you a little basic math. We make 1 million cigars. We do $4 million a year in revenue. So our average cigar is $4, right? So it retails at $8. If you took our whole portfolio, the average is that. Let's say that cigar cost me $2 to make, with the profit that I need at the factory to break even. Say 30 to 50 cents in packaging, or 40 cents in packaging, and 60 cents to get it to the US. Right. So now that cigar costs me $3. On my side, I make about $1 in overall margin for let's say, to run my business here in the US. And I don't have advertising, I don't have salespeople, I don't have any of that. And I still need $1, right? So I send it to retail at $4. So 80% of the volume goes through those retailers, the 1% of the retailers. Like I said, if you're a big company, that you're closer to those averages. So let's say a lot of those people start saying, hey, if you want to sell to us, you got to give us $1 per cigar spiff. Well, I can't do that because that's 100% of my margin, right? They say I need 20% off standing discount. Well, again, 20% is 80 cents. That's most of my margin. I can't do that. But if you want to sell to some of these 25 retailers, it's advertised on their podcasts, it's standing discounts, it's swag and promotional materials, It's having a sales rep who costs 15% of wholesale out there, touching them every month. So what happens is a brand has to say, you know what? I still need $1, so I can't survive at 4 and 8. I have to change my MSRP to 10, so I can give all this other stuff to the retailers, the 80% of the retailers who are demanding it, or the 1% of the retailers that are demanding it on 80% of my volume. So then I have to raise the price to $5. So now the MSRP is 10. I send it out there in the market. The local B&M guy has to sell it for 10. Maybe if you buy a box, he'll sell it for 9 or whatever. But the other retailers are also selling it for 10, but they're constantly running promotions and deals and selling and subsidizing other things that they do. So it creates this kind of disadvantage for the retailers that can't demand discounts, right? So what's happened to the consumer is now the same exact cigar that they used to pay $8 for, almost everywhere locally is 10, but they can buy it for $8, $8.50, $9 still at these retailers that are getting these standing discounts and all this other stuff. So what happens is there's this artificial inflation in the margins in order to account for these dysfunctions in the market. I think of them as dysfunctions. So, it used to be a pretty straightforward thing where it was Keystone, the small brands back in the original boom brought Keystone back. I mean, margins on cigars were down to 35, 40%. But to get on the shelf, people like Rocky and LaFleur and these other people said, hey, we'll do Keystone in order to encourage the retailer to bring their product in. But so what you see is the same cigar that costs, $2.50 to land or $3 to land in the United States. From one company like ours, it's still $8. From other companies, it's 10. From other companies, it's 12, because they're building in discounts for the retailers. They're building in salespeople. They're building in other things. So you'll see the cigar that costs the exact same amount to make being sold for $2, $4, $6 more than, say, like what our cigars are sold for. And so when a consumer sees a $14 cigar, they think, hey, that's got to be a better cigar than an $8 cigar. And then they see that $14 cigar on sale for 20% off or 25% off. They think they're getting a great deal. When in actuality, they're still paying $2 or $3 more than really what they should, right? Yeah. Now, anything is worth what someone will pay for it, right? So as long as consumers keep buying $15, $16, $18 cigars, people will still keep selling $15, $16, $18 cigars. But I understand the dynamics in the business really well. And if I was a local brick and mortar retailer, I would really try to steer away from selling cigars that are made by the people competing against me in retail. I would try to stay away from cigars that don't deliver value, right? I would try to stay away from cigars that have that extra margin built in, because I know inevitably somebody's going to be able to discount that down and still make the same margin I make. So I would really be focused on brands like Roma Craft, but obviously I'm biased, right?
Yeah. So Brooks, from what you've seen over the last 4 years, especially with the 2020 consumption boom, do you think there's, kind of in line with what we've been talking about during this question, do you think that there's, I don't want to say a bubble, because I don't think we're approaching that particular phase, but if you think so, that's fine. But where do you see the price versus purchasing dichotomy? Do you think that there's a breaking point?
Absolutely, there's breaking point. You see the price of some of these cigars going up and up and up, and you've got $100 cigars here, and certainly the number of cigars that are over $15, $16, $20, it has increased fairly significantly over the years. But Charlie's fond of saying that if you couldn't do well during the pandemic as a cigar retailer, and even as a cigar manufacturer, more so, you really shouldn't be in business, because it was just a huge boom that it just anybody basically seemed to be able to just make money hand over fist. and that's going to come back and haunt people. You know, there are some manufacturers who probably thought that was going to last forever, and it's certainly not going to. And at some point, it's going to get to the point where people are not willing to pay those prices. And at that point, then those, you know, they'll start shopping for you know, less expensive cigars. As Skip said, you know, you look for the value. What's a great brand with great cigars that cost less for whatever reason, and those cigars will start selling better and better.
So, Brandon, as again, as a newer brand owner, you know, you guys kind of started, you know, got your feet under you during the COVID craziness.
Yeah, we hit shelves in December of 2021, so it was prime time.
Yeah. So, you know, what kind of advice have you gotten from people, you know, saying, oh, you should make your cigars more expensive, or you should make your cigars cheaper, or what have you heard from retailers? What have you heard from consumers as far as, like, how do you determine where your pricing is going to be, and how do you take advice from people out there in the world? So
for us, the recipe comes from a lot of what Skip was talking about, is keeping those margins where they're supposed to be. You're not going to see us marking stuff up to get a little bit of extra margin. We're looking at our landed cost. We're looking what's going to help us continue making cigars moving forward. So really, I wouldn't say that I've actually had people approach me and give advice per se, or say that a cigar needs to be more or less than what it's at. If you smoke an apostate cigar, our average retail is in the $14 range, and that seems to be a good value. The feedback is, yes, this is a good $14 cigar. If you start talking about a $25 cigar for an apostate, that's well outside of what it should be. I think we're meant to be where we're at. That was on purpose, and I think that's how it's functioning for us. We haven't had any overwhelming feedback one direction or the other. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you heard anything as far as, oh, you guys should come out with a, you know, this is not uncommon that you'll find brands that after a certain number of years, who knows how many it might be, oh, you should come out with like a budget, like a bundle cigar or something. Have you heard any feedback like that?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have heard that, and that's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's something that you want to do to appeal to those customers, but at the same time, if you're talking about brand management, who are you?
Right.
Who are you as a brand? What are you saying you're here for? Are you a premium cigar, or are you a bundle discount cigar?
Right.
Right. So, we're not messing with that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So John, from a pricing perspective versus consumption, where are you at with it? Do you think the bridge is about to break?
No, I don't think we're remotely close. I think, you know, one of the things that Habanos has clearly shown is that I think what people believe the upper boundary of pricing was is not what the upper boundary of pricing was. Now that's not
a 500% price increase on some facings. Yeah.
Right. And they're still selling. I mean, they're not necessarily selling to the American market, but they're still selling. And I think one of the things we could probably do an entire show on, and I wouldn't be the guy to talk about it, Skip would, but, you know, when we went into COVID, one of the things that was sort of part and parcel of that was tobacco prices increase with tobacco availability decreasing at the same time that costs to produce were increasing. So that all kind of hit at the same time where COVID was hitting. So certainly production went through the roof, but costs for everything else were also going up. And I think coming out of COVID, and we've certainly seen that in every other space that exists, all the costs of everything has gone up to produce whatever that product is, whether it's food or whether it's industrial goods or whether it's cigars. And so, you know, unfortunately, and I think Brooks could probably speak to this, we're analytical guys. One of the big jumps we've seen in the last couple of years is the average price of a product on the market has jumped from, you know, what really was about, call it $11.50, $12 a couple of years ago. And now we're kind of moving towards that $14, $15 price point. And that's just kind of where the market has shifted. I mean, I don't know what the true average or the true median price of the market would be, but I can tell you for new cigars that we're reviewing, because of developing palates, we buy the vast majority of the cigars that we review, and our average price is just about $15 a cigar, where it was, you know, just over, I think it was like $11.12 or $11.20 a couple of years ago. So on average, that's a huge shift. You're talking $4 a cigar. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I want to say that you know, if you're one of the guys that smokes 1 or 3 cigars a week, there really is not a big difference between a $12 or $15 cigar and a $25 cigar.
Yeah.
Right? You buy a cocktail in most places anymore. I see cocktails now.
Yeah,
You know,
you're in it
a
for
shot-
30
a shot
bucks.
of, a shot of whiskey
30, 40 bucks, yeah.
$50, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, for those, especially like in Europe, a guy who smokes 1 cigar on the weekend or whatever, if he pays $50 for a Davidoff or a Cohiba or whatever, it really isn't that much of a difference. He's just enjoying a couple of hours. It's just part of the deal, right? But I mean, I smoke eight cigars a day, right? I have for decades. So, and when I was in the Navy, when I was at E4, E5 in the Navy, making, I don't know, $1,000 every 2 weeks or whatever it was, a dollar made a big difference, right? So, but you can double the cost of labor. You can increase the cost of tobacco by 50%. And you're still only talking about, $1 or $2 at MSRP, right? At the retail level. So, the price increases you're seeing there have been cost increases. In Nicaragua, for example, labor has tripled for a lot of reasons, the value of the Cordoba, inflation, all kinds of other stuff, immigration problems. So, the cost to actually make a cigar is definitely more than it used to be. You used to could make a really good cigar for 75, 80 cents. Now to make the same kind of cigar, it's $1.50, right? So it's doubled in the cost since I started making cigars, 14 years ago. It's at least doubled to make the same exact cigars. But that increase in price at the retail level is only $1.53, right? You're not talking about these $10, $20 jumps. So I think it's relative whether it changes the consumption pattern of a consumer or not. I've heard people who say they smoke less. I've heard people say they smoke lesser quality. There's also a big shift in production where used to, especially with the availability of tobaccos, people are just making cigars that are not as good with people who don't make cigars as well as they used to, right? So you have more quality problems, you have less fermented tobacco, you have lower priming tobaccos. And so because of that, even if you're getting a $10 or $12 cigar, and you think, hey, that's a pretty good deal against, the $14 average or whatever it is, that may be a cigar that cost 40 cents to make 10 years ago, right? It's so look, at the end of the day, if you like it, that you're the only person that matters. And if you think it's a fair price for what you're getting, that's all that matters. There's people who like cigars that I can barely finish, and then there's people who pay a whole lot of money for cigars that I don't feel are that much different than other cigars that cost a lot less. But the market, if you take all these dysfunctions in the market that I was talking about before, the market will sort all that out. People will buy what they like at a price they think is fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Brandon, you were going to jump in with something.
I've forgotten it at this point.
Oh, right on.
It's fine.
Right on.
I'm sure it's been covered. Skip knows what the fuck he's talking about.
I want to, because everybody's kind of brought this up, and I want to go down the road of quality control and draw problems, bunching problems, wrappers coming unraveled, caps not applied properly, that kind of thing. Now, I will say that I don't, because I was smoking cigars back in like the 96, 97, 98, 99, when 96 was a little early, but I'd say like 98, 99 quality control got really bad. But I don't think it's as bad now. And most of the quality control issues that I remember from back in like 98 and 99 were like poor quality tobacco. Like it was not properly cured, it was not properly fermented. Rolling and draw wasn't necessarily horrible. It was more quality of, it was tobacco that wasn't processed properly. It was, but now I'd say since 2020 and you know the big buying boom that happened when everybody was working from home and all that. We've talked about it on every Hive Mind since 2020. And I don't feel like, and I want everybody's take on this. My personal take is that in the last 12 months, it hasn't gotten worse, but it hasn't gotten any better either. I'm still seeing the same, a significant amount of draw issues, of caps that are complete, like put on by a blindfolded 6-year-old. And I'm still seeing the same, but I'm not seeing it. It doesn't seem to be any worse to me, at least. Raul, what's your take?
My thing is the same companies are still doing it. Then you still have the same companies that are not still doing. You're still getting the same quality.
That is true. So you're right. Companies that were having quality issues for the last 4 or 5 years are still having quality issues, and companies that had quality control standards and were putting out good cigars that drew properly, had good tobacco, and so on and so forth are still. So that's my take, at least. And because John, you review so many cigars and you smoke so many cigars specifically for like other consumers to learn about, I want to get your take first before anybody else on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, first of all, we approach a different segment of the market than perhaps other people do. We only focus, for the most part, we only focus on new products. So it's a bit of a different slice of what the market might be doing as a whole. So there might be legacy brands that are doing very well in terms of quality control and construction. We don't measure that. We only measure new cigars, new releases from either new companies or existing companies. And I can tell you that over the last 18, 24 months, I dedicated a significant increase in time and words space to burn and construction that used to be essentially a throwaway one line of cigar burn straight all the way through, draw was perfect. And now I have to write essentially a paragraph of the burn performance, and then I have to write half a paragraph or a paragraph of the draw performance. And that is a significant shift of what it was, say, back in, call it 2019. And I would say every year from that point till now, the amount of words that I've used has increased substantially. I would agree, Matt, with your take. I don't think that it is increased substantially, call it 2023 over 2024, this all being anecdotal.
Yeah.
But it hasn't gotten any better. That is, I have not seen on average an improvement. And I agree with Raul. I mean, when I, not to put anyone on blast, but if I buy a $25 cigar, my expectation as a reasonable consumer is that if I pay $25 for a cigar, the burn and construction should be nearly flawless. And I say that because if I can go and pick up a $10 or $12 cigar and the construction is flawless and your cigar is, that much more, my expectation for quality control becomes greater. And so when I pick up a $25 cigar and I see that the cap has been put on by a one-armed blind monkey, that it's a little offensive because there's really no excuse for that. And, one of the things I've kind of said on reviews, and I'm getting a little more vocal as time goes on, is that for me, when you get over a certain price point, and I think that price point's around $18, $19, it becomes a more binary measure. Like, we're not really measuring a gradient of quality. To me, it's either perfect or it's not, because I think at a certain price threshold, there is no excuse for quality control. Now, obviously, there's aspects of, are you storing it correctly? Was it stored at the B&M correctly? Am I cutting it incorrectly? Do I know how to smoke a cigar? So that those are components for sure, and no one is perfect. But again, when you go over that $18, $19 price point, to me, there's just no excuse for a $25, $35, $45, $55 cigar to have any construction issues whatsoever, or any draw problems, or any of that.
Well, and Brooks, you're in the same boat where you smoke a lot of cigars specifically in order to give information to consumers about, the way cigars are smoking today, cigars from 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it may be. What have you seen in the last, we'll say 12 months and even beyond when it comes to draw issues, under fermented tobacco, that kind of thing?
Look, John is spot on this one. We've seen an increase in major construction issues, not just a little bit of a burn problem here or a little bit of a tight draw. Major construction issues where cigars literally can't be smoked sometimes. These are random cigars taken out of random, bags or boxes from the retailer that we buy them from and put into a, we keep everything here for a month at the same temperature before we review it specifically for that reason, to make sure that everything, gets a really fair shake in terms of that. And there's still been a major increase in these kind of issues in the last year. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not, I'm certainly not going to say something like it's been a 50% increase in the last year or anything. But certainly since COVID, there's been a massive increase in these number of problems that we've seen, and they continue. And it's issues that the issue is caused by a number of different factors, we think. That Skip mentioned the fact that they've got immigration from rollers that are affecting just about every country that makes cigars. Cuba, certainly, I know. I go to Habanos Fest every year and talk to any number of retailers across the world, and they're having the same issues with some of their cigars from hosts. Nicaragua, I think I certainly know an expert on that, but I think that Skip could say that there are issues with immigration and rollers leaving all over the world in every country that makes cigars. The tobacco doesn't seem to be as fermented as well sometimes or as completely. Just numerous issues that are coming, all to a head when it comes to the cigar problems that we're having. But there's no doubt in my mind that regardless of what country you're smoking these cigars from, regardless of what country they're coming from, and with very few exceptions, when it comes to factories, there's definitely been an increase in the problems that the smokers are having with cigars when it comes to construction.
And Brooks, have you seen? Has that been synonymous with $12 and $14 cigars, and also $35 and $40 cigars?
Certainly, you see it less with the more expensive cigars, but then again, we don't really review a huge number of these $50 cigars either. Yeah. Certainly we do some of them, right? More than most websites, I think, but certainly it's not. The vast majority of our cigars are, 8, 15, 10, ish, somewhere around there when it comes to the prices, the MSRP of what the cigars are. Yeah. I would say it's really more to me it seems it's more of a factory issue. I see very few problems with Padron, for example. And there are, it's a handmade product. There's going to be issues with any factory, right? But any of the Padrones that I've smoked in the past couple of years, and that I've seen people smoke and heard people smoke, which granted it's a small subset, so I can't take much from that. But I've certainly had so few problems with situations like that compared to any number of other factories that I could.
Yeah, at that point it becomes a consistency issue, right? Because if you're talking about brands who are consistently doing well versus brands who are consistently having burn issues, that's on that brand, right? Or that's on that factory. So yeah, if consistency is consistency, that goes on both sides of the coin for sure. Everybody's going to have that one-off, right? Everybody's going to have that. It didn't burn. Yeah, quite. The draw was a little tight.
Exactly.
If you're consistently having a draw issue with a particular brand, it's probably time to smoke something else, to be honest with you. I mean, and maybe that'll help them be motivated to improve their quality control.
Well, and that's a good point, because that's the thing for the consumers, where it's like, okay, because especially in the age of social media, brand loyalty has become something that, I mean, it definitely existed before the age of social media, but it has become
cultish,
almost in a way cultish, when it comes to brand loyalty. And I don't have any problem with brand loyalty, especially when that brand is putting out a consistent, good product at a competitive price. But there have to be limits. Like Brandon, when you guys, because you have good partners that you work with that have made a name for themselves making good cigars for a lot of different brands. So when you work with them, whether you're in the factory or whether you received a box of samples to make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be at home, I would assume you guys have to be like brutally honest and say, nope, this is not
100%.
it. This is not what we talked about. How do you handle those quality control issues, both from somebody who you're not able to be in DR all the time.
Right. I mean, we're there often, so it's nice, right,
Yeah.
to check in and smoke your product while it's coming off the line and see how it's going. But like you said, the most of our quality control from our side of the table for Kendrick and I is happening in our office. Like you said, 6 weeks down the road, we've got a bundle to smoke and check on. It's very important for us and very easy to have that conversation with the factory. Say, hey guys, we got this bundle. We've had a handful of them that maybe the draw was tight or whatever. We honestly, to be honest with you, we haven't really run into this issue a lot. So, but the feedback is a two-way channel, and we know that we can talk to those partners. Hochi and his team down there at Tabacalera Palma are very open to knowing if something's off. So, like I said, luckily we haven't had to have that conversation very often, but it's a conversation that could be had very easily, and that it's one that we would want fixed. Why would we want to bring an inconsistent product to market? Why on earth would we do that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a question. You being a newer brand, do you think it's a lot more important for you to have almost every cigar come out perfect rather than, let's say, a Padron, since they have more of a following and they have more of their feet underneath them?
I think Padron survives on the fact that they are Padron because they are consistent, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's a legacy that you have to build. So for us, if we're gonna someday ever end up even near that orbit, we have to start strong. Yeah. So I think it is important for us. If we're a new kid on the block and we're coming out and everyone's like, man, that tobacco's good, but goddamn, I couldn't smoke it. What are we even doing here? Yeah. We have to come out of the gate strong. Absolutely.
Well, and Skip, because you spend the vast majority of the year, in and around the factory and seeing, what people are doing. So you have a unique perspective to, be able to, even if you end up seeing people who are, whether they're in sorting or boncheros or roleros, you have a unique position to say, you know what, we need to let these people go. So how do you kind of on a day-to-day basis, while you're in Nicaragua, make sure that, and I know you also have factory managers and, line managers, things like that. So how do you, on a day-to-day basis, keep an eye on quality control in every aspect of the process?
Well, that's a really complicated answer. I'll talk to something we haven't really talked about, which is most of the quality for us happens upstream, meaning it happens with the raw material. Like we only have 12 pairs of rollers. So for us, they all have 10, 15 years of experience. They're all using Liebermans so that they can produce, 400 cigars a day, all high quality. Our bunchers all have scales, and we weigh every bunch before we put a wrapper on it, and we weigh every cigar after the wrapper before we put it to aging. If it has any kind of aesthetic defect, like a bad cap or a multicolor wrapper or a nick or something, that's a segundo. We probably, if it fails at the table, it's called a fallo. That's probably 2% of our production. And really that's a soft spot, or it's underweight, or it's overweight. And you really don't, and generally the people in the factory smoke those. Mm-hmm. And segundos are generally, after aging, they're usually just aesthetic problems. That's anywhere between 3 and 7% of our production, because I'm very particular about what gets a label. But what the new thing for us is, you used to be able to buy 100 pounds of wrapper, and it was all the same. It was all sound A grade wrapper, that it was all consistent color. the place you bought it from had sorted it many times, and whatever's in that box, it's 100 pounds and it's all the same. And the same for filler. If you bought a 100-pound pack of Esteli Ligero, it was all sound A grade Esteli Ligero, all the same texture, etc. It's just not like that anymore.
Okay.
When you buy 100 pounds of wrapper, you have to open that box. You have to sort it yourself. You get binder. You get color issues. So, for example, we buy a box of Ecuador Habano from one of the best producers on the planet that used to be spot on 100%, exactly what we need. Now we have to make 3 different products just because of color variations, and we still get a lot of binder out of it, right? So, that and filler is even worse. You buy a pack of Esteli Ligero, it's got 5% Seco, 15% Viso, and then the Ligero even is different grades of texture. So we open up every 100-pound pack of fully ready to use filler, and we sort it into 6 or 7 different categories and reconstitute 100-pound packs. Because, for example, the texture 7 Esteli Ligero we use in Neanderthal may be different than the texture 5 Ligero that we use for Whiskey Rebellion, for example, right?
Okay.
So there's a whole lot more, especially for us, work upstream. I mean, I've got 70 employees and 35 of them work just in raw material, right?
Okay.
So, weight, I know Brooks maybe could talk more about this. I talked to Charlie about this for a long time. They've started to put into their reviews the weight variances and the kind of diameter variances. Weight is a really good indicator of whether a cigar is over humidified or is overfilled or underfilled, right? So, you open a box of Habanos, and John could probably open one right now, and if you weighed all 20 cigars or 25 cigars, you may get variances between like 10 grams and 20 grams in one 100%. Box of cigars, right? That's not a good sign. That right there, I don't care if you use a Draw Master, whatever bullshit you talk about. If one of your cigars in the box is 10 grams and one is 20 grams, you have a quality problem.
That's a huge problem.
Big,
right?
Yep.
I mean, you open a box of our cigars, you may see a 1 or 2 gram difference between individual cigars, and that's just the nature of making handmade products. But whenever you see a cigar that's outside of that, control limit, it's not going to draw right. It's not going to burn right. And because it has a lot to do with how much empowerment you give your rollers. It has to do with, when and how you check quality. But when you're getting, taxi drivers off the street to roll cigars and you're teaching them how to make them, and then you're paying them kind of a not so great price where you incentivize them to do a whole lot more production. And then you really don't check the quality of that cigar until it's away from the production area a day or two later.
Yep.
Especially if you're producing 100,000 cigars a day, you get a little problem with filler, or you get a little problem with, hangovers with bunchers on Mondays. You can produce 10,000 bad cigars in a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
And they're not just going to throw those cigars away.
No.
So,
Yeah.
Again, kind of the craft aspect of making cigars to me has a lot to do with scale, because at smaller scale, it's just easier to control.
Yep.
If something goes out of whack, the most cigars, one bad buncher is going to fuck up in a day is 300-400. Right. And you can eat that. You can't eat 100,000 bad cigars, very, very many times.
Yeah. Surgeon, you wanted to jump in a little bit ago, and I think I jumped on your touchdown call. So
it's all good. So I've noticed that Half Wheel has started to put weights and weight variances and size variances. I've been doing that for a while as well, and really I've been doing it because, one, I want to have a record of what I smoked, and perhaps give additional feedback to manufacturers to say, look, when you've handled, I mean, I'm not at Skip's level, and I will never be at Skip's level, but I've smoked enough cigars now where I can pick up a Robusto and I can tell you it's underweight. I can tell you it's overweight. I mean, when you've handled enough cigars,
That's true.
you can tell immediately. And so when I pick up a Robusto and I'm like, this is 11 grams, like you already know going into it, there's going to be problems. And so if I put it on the scale and it's an 11.5 gram Robusto, I know right off the bat, we're going to have problems. Either it's going to draw too loosely, it's going to burn too quickly, or quite frankly, there's missing tobacco from the bunch, and the cigar may or may not smoke in the way that they originally intended that cigar to smoke. And if you do that enough times, that's going to damage your brand. And so, one of the things I do is when I look at Half Wheel, is it because they do 3 cigars per review, so it's really cool to see the variance on 3 cigars. And I've seen a few times where it's 12 grams at the low end and 16 grams at the high end,
Right.
and that's that doesn't seem like a lot to a lot of people, but a 4 gram variance on the same cigar in the same format is a very large variance. And it begins, you begin to question, okay, well, just how far off is your average cigar from that particular line, and what's the highest point, what's the lowest point, what's the median? And that ultimately is going to damage your brand. It really is.
Yeah. Well, Brooks, I want to know from you guys, as a team at Half Wheel, what led you guys to sit down and say, all right, we got to start including this in what we publish? Because there, like John said, there's there can be such a massive quality difference in a cigar, between, an 11 gram Robusto versus a 16 gram Robusto. And it, I know most consumers, they hear this and they're like, well, it's just a few grams. What's the big deal? But we're talking about, this is not to quote a movie line, but it's kind of a game of inches, and what led you guys to decide to start including that in your process and letting the consumers know about those differences?
It's funny. It's what my wife says all the time. Game of inches. Look, it's very
good for you. Game of
I'm way off stage. Yeah.
For our Canadian friends, game of centimeters, but yeah.
I speak.
Look, it's obvious why we started. It's obvious why we started doing this. We copied John. I mean, this is no secret here. No, look, the idea came from Charlie. It was Charlie's idea, and while I don't want to speak for him, obviously, I think one of the main points we wanted to have when we started doing this on a consistent basis with the same tools at the same doing it exactly the same every single time, so that there's no variance that we could have in terms of how we measured these things, was just to give the readers a more of a idea of the cigars themselves that we are smoking. Obviously, information can be too much. You can have too much information. But for us, I think it really comes down to the idea of, if there is an issue with one of these cigars, we can pinpoint which one it is so that we can tell you, listen, we don't know why this happened. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. But it's, is it coincidence that this cigar weighed, 14 grams more or whatever it was than the other two? We are really trying to give the reader more information so that we can quantify why we are reviewing these cigars the way that we are. Our job is to tell people, our experience with these cigars, and the more information we have, the more information we give them when it comes to why that may be, why the experience that we had may have happened, the better. But there's also the issue of the idea of having this database of all of these cigars over a certain year or years, where you can reach back and say, okay, what's the average for a Robusto, for example? What's the average weight of a Robusto? And we'll be able to tell you that when we're done this for the year. I'm not sure it's been a year yet, but we'll be able to tell you that over the year. We can tell you this, the Robusto average is this weight. Now, obviously, cigars being, handmade products and all that, different tobaccos weigh different amounts, etc. But we can still give you that average. And as far as we're concerned, the more information, the better, as long as it's presented in a way that it is easily digestible by the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a 5x50 from a Dominican factory with secos and visos, or even velados, is going to weigh a lot different than a Nicaraguan 5x50 with, 3 Ligeros and 1 viso, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a 4 gram difference right there. For me, it's kind of more in this brand, in this Vitola, what kind of variances do you have for this blend, right? Because we, even in our factory, we have 6x54s that weigh 3, 4, 5 grams difference than like the Baca 6x54 is a lot different than a Cro-Magnon 6x54, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, on the other end of the spectrum, outside of manufacturing, humidity is one of the things that people. It's been banged into our brain so much, humidity, that people over humidify their cigars.
I agree.
You want to make cigars at a pretty high humidity level, and you want to age them or store them at the 70/70 that everybody talks about. But different cigars perform better at different humidities. I mean, our cigars don't have a lot of. I mean, Brooks has smoked enough of them. He could tell you. Our cigars are very dense. If you just, kind of squeeze one of our cigars, you think immediately, if you don't know any better, it's not going to draw because it's very dense. And our cigars on average are probably heavier than most other people's cigars. So there's not a lot of give there. If the humidity is 4 or 5% too high, it's not gonna smoke correctly. For me, most cigars, especially if they don't have a delicate wrapper, smoke better closer to 60 than 70.
Yep. Yeah, 62 is my. So I get really nerdy with storage, and I know most consumers don't, and I appreciate that. But I get really nerdy with storage, where cigars with more delicate, lighter wrappers, I store them at 62, and cigars with oilier, heavier wrappers, I tend to store them more at like 69, 67, which I know just seems like a few points, but for me, over the years, it has made a huge difference just in my personal smoking every day. It has made a huge difference.
Well, and different tobaccos have different hygroscopicity, right? Meaning the rate at which they absorb and release humidity. So like broadleaf, for example, absorbs humidity really quickly and lets it go really quickly. Ecuador, Connecticut, same thing. But for example, Brazil Arapiraca absorbs it slower and lets it go a lot slower, right? Or so you kind of also have to take into account whatever you store it at, depending on how quickly the tobaccos in that cigar release the humidity, you may need to, if you're going to put it in a travel humidor for a day, you may just need to dry box it for a day before you smoke it. Right. Because if you don't, what happens is the binder is really where the filler is. If it's over humidified, it's just not going to combust the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that ruins obviously a plugged cigar or a cigar with a twisted bunch that just won't draw. And, you get these pictures of the big stems or midribs that come out of cigars and they say that that's the problem. Your cigar has some other problem. And just by opening up a huge channel, you've solved whatever that other problem was. That stem did not cause the draw issue.
Right.
Right. But, when someone sends me a message, says, "Hey man, I smoked one of your cigars today and it didn't draw or burn correctly." I said, do you have other ones? Yes. Leave them out on, in air conditioning for a day or two and then smoke it. He goes, "Won't that ruin it?" I'm like, "No, that'll make it better." And then they always almost inevitably send me everything back. Go, "Oh yeah, that's way better." Yeah. Cause my retailer keeps they have a fog machine in their,
73 in there.
Yeah. It's like the Amazon rainforest in there. Yeah,
exactly. It's like exactly. And so, you kind of just have to know, you smoke tens of thousands of cigars, you start to get, pretty good at knowing whether it's going to, smoke correctly or not. But
yeah. Well, I want to turn our attention to our favorite, one of our favorite groups in the entire world. And that group is the FDA.
Oh God, love them.
Yeah. And because Half Wheel does such fantastic coverage of everything governmental and all that, I want to talk to Brooks first about this. So coming up in September 13th of this year, the FDA is going to begin the oral arguments for the appeal against the the premium cigar industry, in the ruling. So Brooks, do you feel like this, and I'm going to ask the same of everybody, but Brooks, we'll start with you. Do you feel like this is going to be more of the same, or do you think there will actually be some genuine new developments in these oral arguments that are going to be heard in September?
Well, first of all, I want to be clear here. Charlie and Patrick are the ones that deal with the FDA. I deal with the photography and general news and that kind of thing. So certainly as up to date as either one of those when it comes to such things. I will tell you that it seems to me that there won't be much, probably won't be a whole bunch that's very new when it comes to the actual appeal itself. And that's just a feeling, our articles and talking to Charlie and Patrick about it and that kind of thing. Of course, there's always a possibility of that kind of thing. But I think that's probably the way that it will go down.
Well, the big change that's happened since this whole thing started is the Loper-Bright decision. So the thing that overturned the Chevron deference, that opens up all kinds of, essentially what the Chevron deference is it says, since 1984, they said, look, Congress is not experts in every area. If they give oversight, regulatory power on a particular product or industry to a bureaucratic agency in the executive branch, like the PACT Act did for tobacco with the FDA, that they can do it really generically, and then the FDA can use their federal regulatory process and their own expertise, like the Center for Tobacco Products or whatever, to decide what those regulations are going to be to achieve the goals of the legislation. And there was a lot of wiggle room. For example, when the PACT Act was passed, vape products didn't really exist, and the FDA, in their abundant wisdom, decided, hey, this is not a tobacco product, but it's a nicotine delivery device, so it's basically the same, so we're going to regulate it. When the Supreme Court basically said that they have to go by the plain language of the law, and they can't stray too far from that anymore, and there is no deference anymore to the regulatory agency, that opens up for thousands and thousands and thousands of lawsuits in every kind of area of everything that's regulated. Any company with a lot of money and time can now sue a regulatory agency, saying that they went beyond the plain language of the statute that allowed them to regulate a product or an industry. So I don't think Mehta will change anything, because I think his ruling was pretty straightforward. And the appeals court,
Right.
I don't think there's any real appealable issues, because what they basically overturned the whole thing on was that the FDA didn't follow their own process. So I think the FDA is pursuing this appeal just because they kind of have to appease the anti-tobacco people.
It's to save face,
Right.
It's just part of more process because it's what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
Right. But they're gonna lose the appeal.
Yeah.
And my prediction is we are a long way from the FDA regulating premium cigars in any way for a long time.
I agree.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
As long as they keep getting their FDA user fees, right? I think that's the biggest concern they have. If we stop paying user fees, or if they decide that, hey, if in this appeal they decide that the FDA user fees have to be refunded to us, that's a nickel per cigar, right? So from an industry perspective, what I've always said from the very beginning of the regulation process is, the more we regulate ourselves, the less ammunition we give to people who want to regulate us.
Yep.
Right. So the more honest we are about what's in the cigars, the less we use weird chemicals or flavor processes in cigars, the better off we are. The less someone can interpret that we're marketing to children.
Right.
The more diligent our retailers are about, checking IDs and making sure people are old enough to smoke. The less when people who inspect, in Texas, for example, if you're the guy who sends teams of young looking, or old looking 15-year-olds into stores to buy cigarettes or whatever.
Yeah.
If you have a certain amount of resources to go do that job, and every kind of, quickie mart you send someone into, you get, 10 fails out of 100. But if you get 0 fails out of 100 in a retail tobacco shop, then they'll stop coming into retail tobacco shops.
Yep. There's no profit there. Yeah.
Right. And, retailers cheating on taxes, retailers, selling to young people, manufacturers making products that are obviously intentionally marketed in a way that some idiot can interpret it as it being marketed to a child. Those kinds, or as a food product or whatever. The less we do those things, the less we're in their radar. They got bigger other things to fight than us.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, this kind of brings me to you. So, when you guys first started, it was it feels like it was a different situation when it came to FDA, and it feels like not that it's like everything's great now and eat, drink, and be merry, but it doesn't feel as dire as it did 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So when it comes to how much consideration do you guys as a newer small company put into FDA regulations and things like that?
A ton of it. You have to.
Okay.
If you don't have your ducks in a row, it can come back to haunt you. But at the same time, we do breathe a little easier now than we did in 2021 when we launched, right? Because of recent developments. So, but when we got to the table to start what we were doing, we made sure that we had those ducks in a row on purpose. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
But like in Europe, in TPD2, they have track and trace, for example.
Exactly.
Which is something that you have to document everything through the whole entire supply chain.
Yep.
Because we have to do that to sell in Europe, we have all the documentation we need about.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the real danger is not the FDA coming in with labeling requirements or coming in with registration like substantial equivalence and stuff like that anymore. Mm-hmm. The real danger for us is these generational tobacco bans.
Yep.
And shit like that, plain packaging, just, some wacko liberal in Massachusetts decides I want to do something. Let's do what New Zealand did. Let's do what the UK's doing.
Yeah. It's been on the ballot in California for 3 years. Yeah. I mean,
right. And they don't differentiate premium cigars from, blunt wraps. I mean, we get lumped in. So.
Oh yeah. It's all the same. Well, and so Adam, one of our commenters from Facebook, he's a Canadian retailer, and he's talking about humidification. Cigars sitting unhumidified for 2 to 4 weeks. Now, I will say this: I appreciate all the cigar companies, Roma Craft and others, who put that sticker, that label on their cigars that say "packed with Boveda" or whatever it may be, but when I get that box of cigars, whether it's from my local brick and mortar retailer or from one of my favorite online retailers, by the time I get that box of cigars, that little 5 gram or whatever it is Boveda pack is hard as a deck of cards.
That's a good thing.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It did its job.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It did its job.
So the problem coming out of the factory is not under humidified cigars. The whole purpose of aging a cigar in a dry room is to take humidity out slowly.
Take humidity out, exactly.
When you take cigars out to sort them, even in an air-conditioned factory, like in our factory in the rainy season, our cigars will pick up 10%, 15% weight just between the aging room and packaging. So we actually dry the Bovedas out a little bit, 10-gram packs down to about 7 grams, then we put them in the middle of the cigars instead of on the top, so that the wood box absorbs humidity from the outside cigars, and the pack absorbs humidity from the inside cigars.
Yeah.
So when the humidipack is completely kind of hard or semi-hard, to where it's still working. I don't know if Brooks's wife talks about semi-hard, but when
It's part of his conversation. Yeah.
so if it's still pliable, but it's like down to 5 grams or 4 grams, then you know that the cigars are not over humidified, or it would be absorbing humidity, right?
Still pliable. Still pliable. That was my
swishy.
nickname in college.
Yeah.
So Skips, how does that work with your bundles?
The same way, but
Same
the
thing.
bundles don't
Okay.
have the advantage of the wood to help,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. All right. So this next question is all about cybersecurity.
Oh God.
So,
Strike.
there's been a massive, I mean, the whole time bomb of cybersecurity is sort of ongoing. And whether it's CrowdStrike or, some new internet worm or whatever it may be, every company is susceptible to some kind of infiltration. And nobody
Penetration.
is immune. So, John, where do you see the world of cybersecurity when it comes to whether it's online, whether it's cigar companies advertising, or whether it's online cigar retailers? Where do you see the importance of companies maintaining a quality cybersecurity umbrella?
That's a complicated question. I'm not an IT security expert. I know enough to be dangerous. Have been in technology roles for basically my entire professional life. What I will say is my experience in the portion of the industry that I've had is that in general, I think the cigar industry, whether it's online retail or brick and mortar retail, is significantly behind the curve for technology and security. And so I think as a whole, if you're talking about a very large online retailer space, and not to give anyone any ideas, but I think there's probably a very significant risk there in terms of what they could face for a dedicated and specific targeted attack, because I don't believe that they're in a position to adequately defend against a targeted attack in 2024, even 2023. And I think within the last couple of years, we've seen very large non-cigar retailers go down, both in Canada and the United States, either from cryptology attacks, where they essentially invade your network systems, and they basically, for those who don't follow nerdy IT stuff, they encrypt all of your data. So essentially, imagine you're an online retailer.
They hold it hostage.
Yeah, they hold it hostage. So the idea is it's essentially like holding a bank hostage.
Yeah.
And in order for you to get your money out, you need to pay them money. Well,
Yeah.
you're left with a few different options. You can pay the money and hope that they live up to their end of the bargain, and hopefully you can defend against an attack in the future, or you can attempt to defend against that attack. But in most cases, even if you have help from the FBI or some other agency to try and decrypt that, you may not be successful. So there's actually been some pretty widespread attacks in Canada where very large retailers have gone down. And for those who are in the industry or have enough technology experience, you can see before they release the information about what has actually happened, you have a pretty good sense of what has happened before they release it publicly. And so all of that to say, I think that the online retail space is probably needs to pay some pretty serious attention to their technology spend over the next few years, because imagine if you're one of the top 2 online retailers and your entire data system gets locked down on you.
Yeah.
You're talking millions and millions of dollars, I assume, per day, with no end in sight, and starting over from scratch. I mean, hopefully they have good backups, but even if you have good backups, the time to recover from that is measured in weeks, not days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, some of these retailers have outsmarted these guys because they don't even use computers. So
Right.
they're still using a cash register and
they got their
right.
ledgers out.
Right.
Well, and I mean, Risty is commenting from Rumble, and you know, I do consider him an IT security expert, and you know, there are companies that won't even spend, and he's saying 6 figures. I've seen companies that won't even spend 5 figures to shore up their IT security, and they've seen major problems because they refuse to spend, you know, $60,000-$75,000 just to clean things up a bit. And I think it's only going to continue because the guys out there who want to do bad things, the quote unquote bad actors out there in the world, they are growing by number exponentially every day. And are they necessarily going after online cigar retailers? Probably not.
But they will.
Mm-hmm. They'll find whatever targets are soft.
Yeah.
They'll go after soft targets. Because they scour the web. I'm dating myself. Sorry. The
cyber.
Yeah, sorry, I'm dating myself. But they'll scour day in and day out until they find a soft target. Yeah. And if that happens to be an online cigar retailer, so be it.
Yeah.
They're going to go after them.
Well, my favorite is these guys that say my Facebook got hacked. It's like, no, you clicked on the porn link.
You clicked on a porn link.
Got hacked. You welcome them right in.
Oh,
right. You didn't get hacked. You got you were a soft target.
Exposed.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same problem for the 1980s exists in 2024, which is the softest target is the space between the keyboard and the chair, and it always will be.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's always the EPCAC.
Well, and Andrew on Facebook said it right here. At best, the retailers meet some idea of PCI compliance, which is a low bar to exist.
Yes,
that is the only thing that I have ever heard discussed in a retail situation.
And that is
are we PCI compliant? That's the
lowest bar of the lowest bars.
That's
it's literally just a fire alarm on the wall. Is really what that is.
It's the illusion of security.
Yeah, it's a fire extinguisher under your stove.
It's Brad Pitt talking about the flight safety card on a flight.
The user is in fact always wrong.
Yeah, dude.
So Brooks, for you guys at Half Wheel, you know, you guys have a significant number of daily hits, of weekly readers, monthly readers, so on and so forth. So do you guys have sort of ongoing concerns about cybersecurity, and what are you guys doing, if anything, to sort of mitigate that? We can't hear you, Brooks.
He put himself on mute.
You're on mute. I don't know why.
He did it. I can't change it.
That's why we didn't. That's why we didn't have the background noise.
Well, Brooks, when you're able to unmute, we will come back to you.
I'm sure if you ask Charlie's most concerned that Brooks is the soft target.
It could be. It might be Patrick. I don't know. All right. So as we're waiting for Brooks to figure out,
I can see his microphone's lined out. So
it's definitely muted.
That's all he's got to do.
Brooks just got hacked. Said Jay Davis.
So
all right. How about now?
There we go, Brooks. All right, go for it.
So, you're exactly correct. Charlie's worried about me bringing in somebody bad. Look, I don't know hardly anything about that, to be honest.
Jay Davis just said you got hacked.
Maybe, you know.
He's not PCI compliant.
I am. You're going to hear this again from me. I'm no expert when it comes to cybersecurity. We have backups. We have all of the things. I doubt that we have a huge, ongoing, security thing. We have a lot of. I'll just be honest with you. I have absolutely no idea, to be clear.
I mean, is Half Wheel running a lot of like transactional stuff through the website? Probably not, right? But
certainly not. No.
Have some semblance of customer information in a database somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
You want to keep it secure and make sure that it's always
of course.
available.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Of course, but we're not. We don't have any. You know, as far as I know, we don't have any details or anything of that nature that anybody would want to know. Could they come after us? I'm sure they could. But I just don't. You know, I would think that we're the same as a lot of other, you know, online retailers when it comes to such things. You know, you're playing the odds in that regard. If somebody really wanted to take down Half Wheel, I'm sure that they could, or any number of other you know, online stores. I'm sure they could. So
Allison, Brooks, Allison is saying that you were looking at Pornhub, and that's why you were muted.
Fucking Allison.
I'm not judging.
Well, first of all, I can't look at Pornhub in Texas anymore, as far as they know. And secondly,
Utah either. I hear. I don't.
Yeah.
Pornhub is so. Look, I'm on TikTok. Look, that's not really the point here. All right, I'm not doing any of that stuff.
Just selling his info to China.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I Risty says PCI compliant is a term used to sound fancy and important, like medio TMPO.
It's so innocuous. Yeah.
Oh, I see Skip put his head down. It's like, oh boy. Yeah.
So, guys, I got a question for everybody
it.
here, and it's kind of a sophomore question. But we had a new cigar smoker come in the shop that we were at today.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
How would you guys talk to a new cigar smoker, and what advice would you give them going forward?
Oh yeah.
How would I talk to them? Honestly, I would welcome them into our larger world. I always apologize and congratulate them at the same time. You know,
apologize and congratulate.
It's like, welcome to the table, and God damn it, I'm sorry. Because if you're in a relationship, it's about to get rough. It was really cool.
The rabbit hole is deep.
Yeah, on the retail side of things, when I was in the shop at Beehive in Salt Lake City, it was always cool to see the new smoker come in. You're excited, they're excited. You hope that they get the little spark that you got that got you into the industry, right? So for me, talking to new smokers, I think the mistake a lot of retailers make, or a lot of friends giving advice make, is, oh, you got to start with the Connecticut. You got to start with something super light or something flavored or whatever.
Not necessarily.
Scratch that shit. Find out who you're talking to. Find out what they like. Find out what they're into. What are their flavor profiles like? Talk to them about coffee or what their food preferences are. Find out what their palate is drawn to, and then go from there.
And find out what other products they've smoked before cigars.
Is this your first tobacco experience?
Exactly.
Have you had a cigarette? Have you
had
tried
cigarettes?
Vape? Have you smoked weed?
Exactly.
Sake, right?
Exactly.
So find out, their engagement level. Are they a fresh virgin, or have they seen some stuff in college? Right. So kind of go from there. But for me, like the guy in the shop today, the best advice you can give him, because he was ready to go, is just, man, you just got to smoke. You got to buy a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
You got to start smoking. You got to find out what you like, maybe write about it, take a picture of it, save it for later. If you didn't like it, it's disregardable.
Be willing to make mistakes.
Be willing to fuck up. Be willing
Yeah.
to get in over your head. Be willing to try something that you weren't ready for. Think about your long-term budget is probably the best advice. Think about what you're willing to spend to continue your habit. Are you, let's be honest, the conversation earlier, you're going to be an online guy because you're going to come into a brick and mortar shop and try a cigar one time and then go buy it in bulk online? Or you're going to be the one cigar a week guy who loves supporting brick and mortar, and you've got that $15 to go for something in that premium range. So you got to really boil it down to who you're talking to. I don't think there's a blanket approach. I think you need to personalize that shit as much as possible. Make it important for that person.
Yeah.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I mean, listen, in my former life, I was the general manager for a tobacco retail chain of 20 stores. So it's a conversation I've had a lot. To me, sales is sales, and true sales it's a relationship-based conversation. So, like was already said, you need to have a conversation. You need to basically create a relationship, and it's going to be a lot of 80% of them talking and 20% of you asking questions and trying to sort of hone down. And, one of the things you can fail at is overloading them with information.
Yeah.
You kind of want to start from a point where you arm them with enough information that they can feel comfortable and you can guide them through that process. And then, like was already said, you're only going to be able to gain information by smoking cigars. And I think that first part of the journey is going to be smoking a wide range of different product to understand what your taste preferences are. Maybe they're a Bud Light type cigar smoker, and there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe they want that barrel aged 1050, and that's going to be a journey for them, and you just need to kind of support them through there. And I think that's the real big advantage of a brick and mortar experience is that that gives them an opportunity to come in, have that conversation. Hopefully you have a welcoming environment where everyone, every brick and mortar I've ever been in anywhere in the world, everyone's very welcoming. They're happy to have a conversation with you, they want to talk about what you're smoking, talk about your experience, welcome you into the larger community. And that's, that to me is the quintessential brick and mortar experience, and why brick and mortar is so important to fostering the community as a whole, because sure, you can bring in a new cigar smoker from an online sale, but I think it's a lot more successful if you can establish that relationship at a brick and mortar level and foster that experience and that growth for them, for sure.
Yeah.
Skip, as a
I think
as
what
a
John
grower
just
and
said, I think what John said is the most important thing is find an experienced, engaged retailer that's close to you, and just start the process of learning. If you're getting into it by following a TikToker or buying through the mail, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna end well for you. You're gonna be one of these guys that has 2,000 Tupperware things and then just have to sell it because you just gave up on it. So
yeah.
But if you find a good I was lucky when I bought my first cigar in a mall and bundle Oliva and smoked it. This is how long ago it was. I smoked it through the mall. And and if I had just been with that little mall retailer, I probably never would have become a real cigar smoker. What happened was a restaurateur had a humidor, and he kind of took me under his wing. And then I found the same owner of that mall store had a downtown store where, during the day, he could sit and talk to you for a couple hours. I think if I was a retailer, I don't think we do this enough, but if I was a retailer and I had somebody come in who said, "Hey, I'm just kind of starting to get interested in cigars," that would be the most important customer for me, as in terms of all the customers.
100%.
And what I would do is I would try to set up little weekly or monthly events where 5 or 6 of those guys got together and we talked about, lighting cigars or cutting cigars or different types of tobacco, or, just trying things and, helping them to develop their own subjective preferences, but also to be knowledgeable. Because if if you're just getting into it and you're starting to follow every blog and you get more bullshit about the cigar industry and that than you do about, because nobody who's been doing this very long talks about the basics anymore.
Right.
We did a show with Modern Rogue, 2 different episodes. It's got like 3 million hits on it.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I get calls from people saying, "Hey, I saw this a couple of years ago, and I want to buy some cigars. What advice do you have?" And my advice is, okay, where do you live? This is a good retailer. Go see this guy. Tell him I sent you, and he'll steer you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
And finally, Brooks, if you can take your thing off mute.
Well,
there we go.
Is it off? Is it off mute? Come on now.
We can hear you loud and clear.
So listen, you don't want me to be a cigar retailer. I can assure you of that. But if I was, I would tell you that all of these things are absolutely correct as far as I'm concerned. You want to be able to tell the people, smoke as much as you can, smoke different things, smoke from different countries, and smoke, different sizes, different vitolas, different manufacturers, different factories even. But I think that what hasn't been said, it may be, to me, it seems to be perhaps one of the most important. I would make sure that every single person that comes into my store, if I was a retailer, which is probably why it would fail, is at least a little bit knowledgeable in retrohaling. And the reason for me is simple. I don't think enough people do it. And I think that it just opens up an entirely different experience when you're talking about smoking cigars.
Yes.
And yes, in the beginning, it may be a little bit overwhelming, right? But you can never start too early as far as I'm concerned.
You can't start too early because that's where the learning curve exists, right? Because the earlier you start trying to explain it, the better. I was talking to a dude at a festival like 3 weeks ago who'd been smoking cigars for 10 years and had no idea what a retrohale was. And trying to explain to that seasoned cigar smoker how to do a retrohale was insane. Short of doing it for him, I could not get him to grasp the concept. So like, you're right, Brooks, the earlier the better. Talk about that way sooner.
I think it's extremely important. I think it's underappreciated in terms of new smokers being able to tell them, listen, you know, a lot of the flavor that you're going to get from a cigar is coming from the retrohale. When you hear people saying, oh, I taste this, obviously taste being subjective. And if you want to go into that, I have quite a few thoughts. But the idea is that if you're not retrohaling, you're missing out on a vast majority of the flavor of a cigar. And not only the flavor, but the enjoyment. The sooner that people start realizing that they can retrohale and they can actually get that enjoyment and that flavor out of a cigar, natural flavor, the better that they're going to be. And the more they're going to enjoy it and the more that they're actually going to smoke, as far as I'm concerned.
And maybe Skip can comment to this from the manufacturing side, but for Kendrick and I, when we're in the factory and we're blending, part of tasting those components is the retrohale. If we're coming up with a blend and we're not paying attention to the retrohale, you're missing half the experience, right? So as a blender, that's built into the experience. And so if you got a guy walking in to buy your product and you've spent all this time focusing on the retrohale and they're not even touching it, they're not going to experience what you intended.
Yeah, it's true.
I love that. Skip is just right to the point. Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Yeah, it is. It's true.
Well, I want to go back to Brooks because Brooks talked about, and we've talked about this not only on How About That Cigar, but I've heard Coop and so many people talk about the whole subjective experience, that it is a subjective experience. And how do
you don't want to get started on that?
Well, no, I do, because this is one of the most fascinating things to me, is because how do you balance the subjective experience versus whether or not a cigar is made properly? You know what I mean?
Even properly is subjective, right?
And well, but there is objectively under fermented tobacco, and you've smoked that tobacco before.
Yeah, 100%.
We all
well, some brands exist because they use under fermented tobacco.
So where is that? And I'm going to open this up to the room because I have to have a bathroom break. But where is the line between subjective and objective, and how do we measure that as bloggers, consumers, manufacturers, and where is the line, and does it matter?
Yeah, it matters.
Oh, look, for us, it's for me at least. I can't talk for Charlie or Patrick, but for me at least, it's very simple. I'm telling you what I'm tasting. And it's not a situation where I'm making things up or things of this nature. And we get it all the time from people. 10 years ago,
I'll refer you to my review of Brooks's review. if you've never seen
that was Charlie. Was that Charlie's review?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece, and you should go read it right now. But the idea behind what I'm doing, everybody has a different idea, I think. But for me, at least, I had a review about 10 years ago where I tasted on the cigar. It was a Fuente product. I had a cigar that tasted. I tasted specifically honeysuckle. And honeysuckle is not something I taste in cigars very often. And I don't know if anybody knows what honeysuckle is.
Sure.
But when it comes to cigar flavors, I have a lot of times when I'm tasting something, it will bring back a memory, and it will be something very, very specific. For example, with the honeysuckle, when I tasted it, I lived in Panama for 3 years when I was younger. And in Panama, there was right outside of the base that I lived on, there was a huge field of honeysuckle. We go there and we would just eat this honeysuckle. It's a plant base, so you pull out the stem and you eat it or taste it. It tastes like honey, grassy honey, if you will, right? It's a very distinctive flavor. And it brought me back instantly to that moment. I had not thought of that moment in 20 years when I had smoked this cigar. And it instantly brought me back to that flavor. And this is what I wrote down. This tastes like honeysuckle. Why? Because my mind is telling me that's what it tastes like.
Right.
Now, the problem with flavors in cigars is that you're not tasting that. I mean, your mind is trying to your mind is trying to classify what you're tasting when it comes to your experiences. And so if you don't have that experience, then your mind is not going to taste it, right? Nor will it taste it anyway, because probably your experience is different than mine. But when it comes to flavors, my advice would be to taste as many things as you can, because then those cigar flavors, your mind is going to try to classify that, and it's going to have more flavors to choose from, if you will. For example, Charlie sometimes has cigars that he says taste like it reminds him of seaweed or seafood or something of that nature. Now, I've never eaten seafood, once or twice probably, that Charlie, when I was drunk, he probably had me do it. But for the most part, I don't eat seafood. So for the most part, if I taste that flavor, it's not going to taste to me like seafood because I just don't eat it. It's going to classify, my mind is going to classify it as something else. But the more
Brooks
you
is like,
eat,
man, this cigar tastes like pussy.
I don't.
And Charlie's like, what does that taste like?
I don't have any comment on that. But
Sorry,
I lost my train of thought. It's quite all right. Anyway, the point is, the more you taste, the more that your mind is going to be able to classify these flavors. You are not tasting pussy in a cigar, right? But it's possible. I guess you do enough of you've just got me. All right. The point is that if you eat enough and you drink enough and you have enough of that experience, then your mind will be able to classify that. If you don't, then people, the guy called me up and said, "Hey, I've never tasted honeysuckle in a cigar." And I said, "Well, have you ever had honeysuckle?" And he goes, "Well, no, I live in New York and we don't have anything like that here." And I'm like, "Well, if you haven't had that, then you're not going to taste it. It's really very simple in that regard." But you're not tasting these flavors. It's just your mind trying to classify what it's tasting and trying to make sure that your mind, builds it under a specific memory or a specific flavor that it can actually quantify.
So is that something you would tell a new smoker? Hey, when you taste these flavors, this is not exactly what you're getting out of cigars. This is what your mind's trying to remember as, or
that's right. Look, the idea that you're tasting these in cigars is asinine, right? You're not tasting these flavors in cigars,
right.
not in a true sense of tasting it. But it's certainly reminding me of that, and that's what we're writing down. And you'll have a lot of these very basic flavors: earth, barnyard, manure, things of the same. I'm not tasting manure. That's not. I've never tasted manure. However, I grew up around a farm, and I can tell you that there's a very distinct difference in aroma when it comes to leather and leather tack, right? So, and anybody who's grown up near a barn can tell you the same thing.
Yeah,
there's a huge difference between those two. And so when I use those, I don't use them interchangeably. I use those specifically as a flavor. People go, "Oh, well, you tasted leather. What the hell is leather tack?" Well, I can tell you what leather tack is. Leather tack is basically leather that's been sweated and shit on, right? But it's a very distinct aroma / flavor. And I think part of the problem is we keep saying flavors when that's not really what we're meaning. We're not tasting these flavors, right? Because most of the flavors are coming from the retrohale anyway. Or at least mine are.
It's coming from your olfactory.
Yeah,
right.
which is intrinsically linked.
Well, and
you're not really
the strongest links to memory that the brain has is from anything from the olfactory. It's one of the strongest links to memory. And one of the things, and I know Brooks has already spoken to this and can speak to it more. John can speak to it as well.
A lot more.
And all of us can speak to it. Is I was told early on in the 90s by an old school cigar smoker, just when you're making notes on what you like to smoke, the cigars that you enjoy. And I have notebooks galore from 20 plus years. They say, no matter how stupid it sounds in your mind, just write it down.
Yeah.
It may sound really fucking stupid while you're in the moment, but just write it down.
There's no pomegranate in that cigar, but
yeah,
that's what it reminds you.
Yeah, there's no pomegranate. I had one. I swear to God, and however people want to say I'm crazy in the head, I don't care. There was a cigar I had one time that I swear something reminded me of canned peaches, not fresh peaches, but canned peach. I know it sounds fucking stupid. I understand that. I realize that. But there was something while I was smoking that cigar that reminded me of canned peaches for whatever reason. So I learned from somebody who knew better than I did, and I wrote it down.
Yep.
That it doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I just I was taught early on, write everything down that you smell and taste when you're enjoying that cigar. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come out in the final wash, but it in some way, shape, or form, eventually it's going to be important.
And I think to your point about a new smoker is if you're trying to coach them into writing shit down, you can't be telling them to write down every flavor they taste. I would say just tell them, jot down everything that it reminds you of.
Yeah.
We're not trying to taste wallet leather in this cigar, right? We're trying
Although that is a specific flavor, right?
It's a specific flavor, yeah. I've seen it in reviews, and that's why I say it. But it's like you what we're speaking to here, and this is where the subjectivity comes in, is what does this note on this cigar in my palate remind me of? And if that's chocolate, cool. If it's dark roasted coffee, cool. If it's earthy, cool. If it's grassy, cool. Everyone's going to say it differently. So we're just talking about what it reminds us of. We could be talking about the same shit using different words all day.
And
well, I can tell you before Wine Spectator, right? Nobody talked about these flavor wheel descriptors in cigars. Nobody did. But you cannot find one written thing anywhere or an old school guy who said, hey, back in the 70s or 80s, did they talk about flavor descriptors when they talked about cigars, right? They just did not. They did not. That is an advent, a marketing advent of Wine Spectator. But there is a language that makes describing what you're tasting to someone else easier, right? Like if I'm tasting raw, it's kind of what Luciano was talking about in a comment a minute ago. If I'm tasting tobacco, I'm looking for acidity. I'm looking for glucose content. I'm looking for ammonia. I'm looking
Spice.
for
how it physically affects your palate,
resin, those kinds of things.
Yeah,
and so, maybe I'm just not a super taster. Maybe I'm just an average taster, which most people are by definition. But one thing that's changed for me a lot. I subscribed to this Standard and Twain monthly thing, and it's basically a plain packaged cigar with a barcode or QR code, and you smoke it. And I can tell you can ask any of the guys that are around me when I'm smoking it. I can generally tell you the country, what kind of tobaccos are in it, a lot of times which factory it came from, or at least what brand it is, and sometimes you can name exactly what cigar it is. And I couldn't tell you if it tasted like honeysuckle or whatever, but I know. But I can also tell you, hey, it's got low priming tobacco. It's real acidic, so it probably has these kinds of tobaccos, or it's real alkaline. It makes you salivate, or it doesn't. So, but at the end of the day, what I like may not be what you like, right? So that's one of the great things about, the greatest thing about New World cigars, especially I talk a lot about this in Europe, is tobaccos from different regions, especially the way that they interact with each other. I can't think of very many puros or cigars with tobacco all from the same place that I really like.
Right.
And generally when I do like them, it's because it's pleasant, but it's just not very complex or interesting to me. Sometimes that's what you're looking for, right? But the fact that you can take tobacco from Mexico, from the Connecticut River Valley, from different places in the Dominican that are tobacco from Ecuador that's using a seed from Africa. The fact that you can take all that into one cigar, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, especially if the tobacco is good. And good is subjective also. Like I'll look at tobacco that we're going to buy, And some people will say, "Hey, that's too ugly. I could never use that tobacco." And I'm like, "No, but that's where the flavor's at, right?" And sometimes you don't want tobacco that's over fermented. You don't want tobacco that's completely. When people say I used 15-year-old tobacco, I'm like, well, how does that still have any taste in it?
What's left? Yeah.
Yeah, but it is subjective, and the thing is if I go to buy wine, and I'm certainly not a wine expert, I am very susceptible to being influenced by how pretty the label is or how creative the name of the wine is. If it looks fancy, I'm thinking, and even price. If it's a little bit more expensive, I think it's a little better. But as soon as the sommelier guy starts talking to me about it, I completely check out, because I'm like, none of that stuff matters to me. Just bring me something that's good, And it's like, well, I don't know what that means to you.
Yeah, I think Luciano nailed it on what's subjective versus objective. What's objective is how it affects your palate. Is it complex? The pH is certainly going to make a difference in how it feels in your mouth. So what's subjective is what those notes remind you of, and that's fine if it's different for everybody. That's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome. But being objective is a much narrower focus.
Matt, I got a question going back to yours. So every time you smoke that cigar, does it bring back the canned peach flavor, or was that just a one-off?
So each time that I smoked that particular cigar, and this was back when I was writing reviews for Blind Man's Puff, and this was back in 2015, almost 10 years ago. Yeah, I smoked 3 of that cigar, and every time I was like, there's some aroma in this cigar that reminds me of canned peaches. I don't know why. I know it's fucking weird, but there's something reminds me of canned peaches. I have no idea why.
Another thing is your mouth has a different chemistry than my mouth. Right.
My mouth has a very unique chemistry.
Right. I'll give you a simple example. Like, most toothpaste have a thing called sodium lauryl sulfate, SLS.
Yeah.
And SLS is a what it basically does is it creates the bubbles, the
surfactant, or I can't remember how it's pronounced.
Surfactant.
Surfactant. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, if you don't use SLS free toothpaste, then you're automatically going to have a different way that the chemistry happens on your palate, right? When I'm tasting tobacco or blending or buying tobacco, I absolutely use SLS free toothpaste.
Same here.
And I try to drink or eat the same things that I always do, so that I'm not the variable in the equation, right?
Right.
Yeah. And it's there. So all the stuff that I am talking about, as far as like picking out flavor notes or aroma notes, all this early on. I'm talking like mid 90s, late 90s. All this stuff that I learned came from wine people. It didn't come from
that's
cigar
where it comes
people.
from. Yeah,
it all came from wine people. And it wasn't about, taste this different tobacco and this. It was about, and all these guys were people who could say, this wine is from this year. It was from this exact vintage, from this exact region of this exact slope in Italy or whatever.
Yep.
It could be France, Italy, whatever, or Napa Valley. That they will say this wine exactly came from this place in this year. And so just learning from those people, saying, look, it may seem stupid in your head while you're enjoying whatever product it is you're enjoying, but no matter how stupid it feels at the time, just write it down.
Yeah.
I know you may seem awkward, but just write it down.
Right.
Because it may.
But this also goes back. Sorry, go ahead,
Brooks.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but this also goes back to the whole retrohale thing, right? I mean, you're not going to taste hardly any of these flavors, any flavors that you could taste, if you're not retrohaling anyway.
Exactly.
And so, if you're not retrohaling, you're tasting very basic things, very basic flavors, and so it all makes this a weave. The life is a is a complicated weave of whatever, right? So the idea is all of these experiences all come together to produce an enjoyable experience,
Right?
And so for me, if I wasn't retrohaling, I retrohale every puff at least a little bit, a lot, whatever it is. Every puff of every cigar, I retrohale just a little bit at least. And if I wasn't retrohaling, I wouldn't be smoking, and it's really that simple. I just don't enjoy it, and that's for me at least, it's a major component of what's happening, and it allows me to taste the flavors that I'm tasting, or the aromas, or whatever the heck you want, how you want to classify it.
Yeah.
Luciano's dropping fire in the chat.
Yeah,
right now.
Luciano.
And now look, and Luciano, he's
amazing.
amazing. He's amazing when it comes to these kind of things, and certainly we should listen to him before you listen to me.
I mean, we're talking about pH levels and different bacteria levels and things like that. And the fact is, it always changes with each of us, whether we have a cold or whether we have a little bit lower pH, whether we have higher pH.
Did you drink water today?
Did you drink a lot of water today? Are you dehydrated? Are you have you had too much coffee?
I think what it comes down to ultimately is subjectivity versus objectivity.
Yeah.
As an individual consumer, are you doing things consistently on your end to help you enjoy every cigar the same way? Right. So are you being consistent on your end to have an enjoyable cigar experience? Whether Brooks told you you'd be tasting wallet leather and pomegranate in this cigar or not.
Right.
Are you enjoying it the way that you want to enjoy it because you did what works for you that day? And that's really
on the end of the bus.
There's nothing else you can do. I mean, we can sit here and talk about it all day, but what we're going to say isn't going to matter to the individual consumer ultimately, other than be consistent.
Yeah. And so for us, when we, and John and Brooks are, I would think, and Skip even, and Brandon even would say the same thing when we're evaluating blends, whether that's evaluating blends because we want to make sure that production is keeping up with the standards we have in place, or because we're evaluating blends to review a cigar to publish on our website. We want to have as clean a palate as possible. We want to come into things objectively and honestly, but there's also experiences, whether it's with family, friends, weddings, graduations, bar mitzvahs, birth of a child, where we just want to enjoy. And like Brooks said, I'm still going to retrohale pretty much every puff that comes out of that cigar just so I can get everything out of it. But I'm not sitting there thinking, oh, am I tasting like Minnesota cranberries or Michigan cranberries?
You're not grading it every time you smoke.
Right. We're just enjoying, when it comes to those moments just in life with our families, our friends, whatever it may be, we're just chilling.
So that's my question for you guys, I guess, as reviewers and as purveyors of cigar content. You spend a lot of time focused in on the product and how you're going to describe it to others and how you're going to evaluate it, because you have your own goals in that regard. What is it hard for you to check out and turn that part of you off and just enjoy a fucking cigar, or
it's extremely hard.
John.
Yeah. Well, so Skip and I have talked at length over entire evenings before about this, but one of the hardest things that I do is sit down, and I know Brooks feels the same way. Is one of the hardest things I do is to be able to sit down and focus on a cigar for an hour and a half, 2.5, 3 hours, and you, as a reviewer, if you're doing, I think what you should be doing, you are focusing 100% of your attention and focus on that cigar. So there's an aspect of that process that is a bit mentally fatiguing, because one of the great things about doing shows like this is that I can light up a cigar and smoke a cigar and just enjoy the experience. And I don't have to engage my brain 100% to focus on every single draw and every single retrohale to measure and try and write down and record the experience as I go through it. And, part of that process is, if you're doing it, I think, giving it the respect that it deserves, it's a very, very focused and fatiguing process. I enjoy it, or otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, but it's a very different process from sitting here on a show talking about cigars and puffing on cigars that I know I enjoy already. and then I can relax and just let the experience be the experience. And so smoking for pleasure, smoking for fun is a very different process than smoking cigars for reviews. It's radically different.
Yeah, when you have to engage, when you have to constantly engage that analytical part of your brain and just focus on aromas, flavors, textures, draw, all that stuff. It's great. And we enjoy that because we want to give, like, and John and Brooks are the same way, and Charlie and all the people out there who review cigars. We want to give honest information to people out there.
Sure.
But we would much prefer to just sit back with friends or family or whatever it may be and just enjoy the moment and not be so ultra analytical about the cigar. And we do it for short moments just to put information out there for, and I'll speak for myself. I do it for short moments just to put information out there to consumers that I feel is honest.
Yeah.
But would I rather just, sit with you guys and just chill and enjoy a cigar and a good conversation? Absolutely, I would.
That's what it's for, right?
Well, so like I find, like, when I'm in Nicaragua, when I'm in Esteli, most of the time what I'm smoking is individual tobaccos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
And so because I'm smoking I'm smoking like the first little bit of a bunch of different cigars just to see where they are in the aging process, or just to make sure that the production stuff's going right. And so I'm in that mode. When I'm in San Juan del Sur, I'm getting stuff from the factory. I'm specifically asking, hey, give me stuff from week 13 in this brand. Give me cigars that this guy rolled in week 20 or whatever. And then I'm smoking cigars that aren't ready yet. And so you're kind of gauging where they're going to be in 5 more weeks or 10 more weeks or whatever. When I'm in the United States, I'm only smoking finished cigars that have been around for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And my experience is a whole different experience because it's 100% just based on enjoying smoking the cigars, right? I think a lot of people who review cigars, and they have these brutal kind of schedules where they got to do, 2 a week or 3 a week or whatever. 95% of their cigar smoking now is not enjoyment smoking.
Exactly.
It's only they got to get through this lineup of cigars. And I think it's easy to lose. That's why it's good for me to keep a balance of when I'm here or when I'm, what I'm doing, because it gets me a variety of experience so I can get back into just understanding the enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
Look, I have to be honest with you, and this is me being completely honest. I'm not sure I actually enjoy smoking cigars anymore.
Right. How could you?
I think that the easiest way to destroy a love of something is to do it for a living. And when you have to smoke, as Skip said, when you have to smoke this cigar in order to get to a deadline or something of that nature, when you have to smoke this, regardless of what it is or how it tastes or how bad it draws or whatever it is, it definitely weighs on me after a while. It's a job that I do and that I enjoy doing. I enjoy having this job, but in terms of the actual act of smoking cigars, I can remember before I was doing this as a job, and there is no comparison between the two. I can't smoke a cigar now without thinking about these things. I can't do it. It's not.
Yeah,
so for me to sit down and enjoy a cigar, I don't believe that's something I could ever do again in terms of how I enjoyed it before. I was doing this.
There's a great article in the New York Times, like maybe a week or two ago. It's the guy who's the restaurant reviewer for the New York Times, and he's retiring, and he describes like how he went from being a guy who loves food to just this unhealthy mess of and also being jaded by he can't just enjoy a smash burger anymore because because he's trying to evaluate five-star restaurants or whatever. So for I am still, when I wake up in the morning, when I grab a cigar, most of the time it's because I'm a cigar smoker, right? Yeah. I probably buy as many cigars as a lot of consumers, right? Probably 80. I probably buy more cigars that other people make than probably 70% of cigar consumers, right? We have a cabinet full of cigars from other people, and I still do it in a way that I enjoy it. But I'm in a different mode when I'm smoking a finished cigar than when I'm making cigars. And I would never want to be a cigar reviewer. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it has almost no value other than it's free promotion for a brand, and it's a guy like John or Brooks or someone you respect saying, "Hey, I really enjoyed the work you put into this." Right?
Yeah, exactly. And they're taking a hit for the team by doing it. And I think that's the appealing part. Like Skip being on the manufacturing side is I still get to enjoy cigars. I get to walk into your lounge. I get to meet your customers. I get to see what they're smoking, and it becomes less about what the cigar is and what the cigar does. And that's where it builds community, and that's where it builds those bridges. So smoking for pleasure is still a huge part of the process for me.
Well,
You know how many times I smoke a cigar that I
We lost him.
We lost.
oh, Brooke,
It was just about to.
you were about to.
He was about to spit fire.
Oh man, it
Pop
was.
off.
Go back, Brooks. Start over.
what?
Go back.
We didn't hear anything you said.
You know, the last
Start
time
over.
you smoked a cigar. Go.
Sorry, you didn't hear it?
No, go. Yeah,
we need
yeah.
to hear it.
Repeat.
You know how many times I smoke a cigar that I want to smoke in a given year? That I sit down and say, I'm going to smoke the cigar because I want to.
In a given year, I'm gonna say 4 times.
Not enough.
Not enough. Yeah.
Not enough. Yeah.
Probably 5 cigars a year, give or take.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, for
Honestly-
me, one of the things that's still really cool is some guy will come by with like a sample of tobacco and he says like, this is this seed grown in this way with this kind of fertile. And it's like being able to find some unique tobacco. And then you add that to your kind of Rolodex to say, this isn't work for anything that I'm working on right now, but like 6 months from now, I'll be working on something and go, you know what this is missing? It's missing that thing that was really unique in this individual tobacco that I smoked 6 months ago. Can I find a reliable, consistent source for that tobacco to build around? Right. That's a component of being a cigar maker that is really unique.
Yeah, that's happened to us a couple of times, and I love that. Something to look forward to.
Well, I feel sad. Our wonderful friend Justin Andrews, he says I can't remember the last time I've smoked a cigar for pleasure.
Yeah, that's
Justin.
Yeah, that's sad.
Well, he's basically a stormtrooper for the evil empire, so we don't care about your feelings.
That makes me deeply sad, Justin. Justin, so what you need to do, you need to book a flight to Minneapolis, St. Paul. You need to come and hang out with me and Justin and Raul, and we're just gonna sit and smoke cigars and talk about life and get you out of this funk of like smoking cigars for evaluation purposes.
Same thing for Brooks, man. I feel bad for you, bro, that you've only had 5
Oh,
cigars.
don't feel
a
bad for
year.
me. I had to look. I've got a great life, man. That's not my. That's not that. It's just the way it's.
Yeah. I don't feel bad.
It's basically my job is to smoke cigars and drink beer or whatever, right? So don't feel bad for me.
Yeah.
No, but this is a
listen,
serious. This is a serious thing, though, Brooks, about kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is on one end of the spectrum, you got a new person who's really excited and they're getting into it and they're discovering and they're not jaded. And then on the other end, you have the best of the best people like you and Coop and Charlie and these people. But on that end of the spectrum, you're so jaded. You're so just burnt out that it's like it's hard.
Now hold on a second. Hold on.
Go.
I don't consider myself jaded. I don't consider myself jaded at all. It's just a different way of looking at it, just like you look at it differently at certain points. The only difference, I don't get that other side for the most part. And I look on this as a job. It is something that I have to do. It is a very good job. I love my job, but it doesn't change the fact that the way that I'm smoking cigars now is extremely different from the way that I was smoking cigars before I started doing this as a job. And one of them was enjoyable.
Right, like if you do porn movies for a living, you don't enjoy the same sex the same way that McTavish does.
I absolutely have, and yes, you're absolutely correct. Back in the day when I was doing porn movies, it was horrible. It was horrible. Sex was horrible.
Right.
But
It lost all its, jaded may be a negative word, but John, when he got married and started getting, steady action, it was a magical world of pure imagination. That's a different place than
with me.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how the math
So I
works
hear,
out, but
so
we'll
I
just
hear.
go with that.
Well, and like just now,
I think we should switch places. I think I should take over your job for a week, and you should come do my job for a week, and we'll see whose business fails faster.
Your job, Brooks.
Oh
There
yeah,
you go.
well yeah,
Jobs-
I would
job
absolutely
swap.
fail. I would absolutely fail
Ain't no
having
way.
to. My
I'd run your
reviews would
business
be-
in the ground in a week, guaranteed.
John, do you feel the same way? And then do you only enjoy 5 cigars a year, or look forward?
No,
to
I don't have to do this as a job. This is, as my wife says, this is my full-time job hobby. But I make sure to carve out as many opportunities as I can to smoke cigars for myself. Like we've started to do sort of insider virtual herfs at least once or twice a week now, and a part of that is just recalibrating and being able to light up and pour something that's tasty and smoke something that's tasty and just enjoy that experience. And that provides that balance for me against the 3, 4, 5 cigars that I'm smoking for the sort of review cycle, whether it's for that week or for the month. So for me, it is really important for me to manage that balance, because I don't want to get jaded. I don't want to get burned out on the process. And it's it's a fine line. I just need to make sure that I'm making sure to find that right balance.
Yeah.
Well,
Balance. Baby.
so
Balance.
I took a quick break. I walked over to the other side of my garage, and I reached into I opened one of my travel humidors that I don't think I've opened in a while, and I found an unbanded cigar. No label on the cello, no writing, because sometimes I'll write in Sharpie on the cello. Nothing on there. I have no idea what the cigar is. I have no idea where it came from. I don't remember who gave it to me, where it came from, what test blend it might be. I have no idea.
canned peaches,
I'm not detecting any canned peaches.
bourbon,
No bourbon. No.
Wallet leather.
But so just from the
butt leather?
appearance, so just right now,
It's a Maduro.
like it's a Maduro. It's
San Andreas.
I'm getting notes of San Andreas
San Andreas
earthiness,
all day.
but I'm also getting like a little bit of Esteli Ligero. But beyond that, I don't have any clue where I don't remember where the cigar came from, who gave it to me, or anything like that. But I'm just sort of, taking it in, note by note.
Good.
But I'm not stressed over it. I don't really, it's okay. It's all good.
it's all good, brother.
Love it.
All right. So, a business question. Cigar.
That's by the way, that's the cigar equivalent of a glory hole.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
You just
Just stick it in and see what happens.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. That's how I like to live my life. Yeah, definitely. So a cigar business question. So, a little bit more than halfway through 2024, there have been some moves, from a acquisition standpoint in 2024 so far. But does anybody think there's going to be a major acquisition happening before 2024 comes to a close?
Oh, we're
in the
speculation
world of
territory.
premium cigar brands. Brooks, of course, I have to start with you.
Of course you do. I'm going to say define major.
Right.
I'll
Are
say.
we talking Alec Bradley? Are we talking Alec Bradley? Size, or are we talking?
Are we talking
No,
Davidoff?
I'm gonna say 7.5 million or above.
Yes, I say that there will be at least one acquisition
I would say
before the
one
end of
to
the year.
two.
Do you know the brand? Can you speculate on any brands?
No.
Okay.
John,
McTavish.
Yeah.
I mean, I could, but
Yeah, I think
Brooks,
there's-
that's why you're
Don't
Brooks.
do it.
that's why you're here.
That's
Don't do
why
it.
you're on the show,
Don't
Brooks.
do
We didn't
Come
bring
on,
you. We
speculate.
didn't bring you in for your good looks, bro. Come on.
Run away.
that's
Run away.
that's a lie. And that's a lie, and you know it. That's a Charlie question.
Oh,
I will
see,
say.
Justin Andrews says, "Time for me to leave." He smiles.
Yeah.
See?
Don't do it.
I will say that I feel like that there will be one, at least one. Yes.
Okay. McTavish.
Before the end of the year, no. I think I don't think it's going to close until probably Q1 of 2025.
But do you
And
think?
who is it?
Do you think the
Will it be
announcement
announced?
will come in?
No, I don't think it'll
Q4
be
of
announced. You can't announce
2024?
that. Say again.
I don't think you announce until the deal.
You can't. You legally you can't. You can't in the current market. You can't announce acquisition until the deal is signed. So
the ink is dry, and then you.
So
yeah,
John,
by the time the
what
time
company?
the information comes out, that deal has been done for, I don't know what the time frame is, but it's been done for a while. So
Yeah.
it'll be before PCA 2025, and it should be mid to end of Q1.
What company?
Which major company
Who
do you
can
think
say?
is going to be doing the acquiring? Do you think it's going to be General, Altadis?
Those are your safest bets. Those are the players that have the money to make
I
an
would put
acquisition
those
at
two
that
at the top of every
scale.
list.
I mean,
bet.
it's all money.
I'm not hearing a company out of nobody's mouth.
No, nor will you.
Well, Brooks was
Why
about
not?
to say something, and then he broke up.
No.
So
I mean, I wouldn't be
No,
surprised to see. Go ahead, Brooks.
I heard General was going to buy Romacraft. That's what I heard.
Nobody wants to deal with me, so I'm the
Skip's never going to sign those fucking papers.
3 to 5 year contract for Skip. No go.
Yeah,
I mean,
three
I
to
told
5
you
year
that-
non-compete.
I told you in the beginning that the market was getting softer, and so when financials of smaller companies start looking a little worse, the multiples and the kind of opportunity to buy get better. The people who are generally used to selling a lot of cigars through the big companies are acquisition targets. But I mean, there's some that like for years you've looked at and gone, these people have to, or at some point this is their path. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point someone buys AJ's operation. I wouldn't be surprised at some point if Davidoff gets rid of the premium cigars.
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, you don't see Padron selling anytime soon,
No,
but there's all these little brands out there. Like you see Caldwell, Rumo 101, like these medium to, little brands that, they're just tired of chasing they're tired of being a rat on a wheel. Right. And they get a cushy salary job. Some big company pays them a salary and they get out. But at the same time, get to do all the things that they love about running a cigar brand. Those things will probably happen, organically. I'm sure Justin's working on 3 or 4 of them right now. And then you'll see some places, you'll see small brands just disappear. There's a lot of dead men walking out there, and you just don't know it yet because they hang on forever, to the bitter end. But it's not an easy business, the amount of capital you have to do it right, the amount of work you have to really, really love it to do it, because there's nobody getting rich doing this.
Right.
Well, and this brings up an honest question, like a dead honest question for Brandon. Newer brand, smaller brand, only a few years old. How do you know? So how does a brand know that they are dead in the water? So when
I don't know if they know.
Okay, I'm
Honestly,
asking you honestly, as a small brand owner, a new brand owner, how do you know? Like, do they know, or is it like by the time they actually know, it's too late?
I think there are certain indicators, right?
Okay.
As long as you're seeing growth, you're probably okay for another year.
Okay.
Right? And so if you can go into that next year and sustain
growth by a certain percentage number, or
sure, whatever, growth is growth.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But for me, growth looks more like your big fish are still biting the hook, and you're bringing on new fish, right? So our focus as a new brand is to gain new accounts. We're not out here trying to get every new account. We're out here trying to get the right at new accounts, right? We're building relationships, people with similar goals and similar circumstances. if we're out here to whore ourselves to every single retailer in the country, it's a short-term gain and a long-term fail, I think. So
Okay.
you want people who understand the vision, who appreciate what you're doing as a message. You've got your consumer engagement, you've got your brand engagement, you've got a consistent product. I think if you're hitting those high notes, that's a recipe for success. Is everybody going to get it if they have that recipe? Not necessarily. Is apostate going to be around in 10 years? Fuck, I hope so. I think we're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But that's all subjective. It depends on a lot of things. Depends on the market. Depends on the FDA.
Right.
Everything we've talked about tonight. So it's scary. And like Skip said, we're not in this for the money. We're not in this to get rich. We're in this because we're passionate about it.
Yeah.
We love what we're doing. We love building these relationships. We love engaging with consumers and retailers alike, and perpetuating the cigar community as a community, as a collective. So
Yeah.
I think if you can keep that as your focus, you're probably going to be fine. And Skip's got that recipe nailed. I mean, Skip creates a quality product that people are excited about every day. The consistency is there. The message is there. How can you go wrong? You know what I mean? So I hope on our end, there's not necessarily imitation, but you see what works and you go with what works, right?
Saying that, do you and your partner have a price? If one of these bigger companies come along and say,
everybody,
That's
has
a great
your money.
question. That's a great question.
Everybody has a price. I don't know what my price tag is because nobody's offered me a price yet. But I think if you're in a situation, for me, what's appealing, if you look at like Caldwell and Room 101 and Alec Bradley in the last few years, they've been in it for a while, and people want to say, oh, they sold out. Fuck yeah. Absolutely, because now your brand has the buying power of STG behind it, and you've got a 3 to 5 year contract where you get to be the face of the brand still, and you get to be involved creatively, and you get to go do all the things you love about the industry, and see your brand flourish where it might not have otherwise, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think it's insane to say that if someone came to us with a super cool price tag, we'd spurn that. It would have to be something we thought about. I think we haven't even finished our 3rd year on the market yet, so this is a super premature conversation for us. You know what I mean? But it's like those are the things you think about, absolutely. But right now, we're having fun what we're doing, and we're going to do it for a while.
Well, but okay, so this is good because this brings me to a question, and all of us know John Carney,
John Carney,
formerly of LFD Cigars.
Mhm.
Yep.
So he posted an interesting question on social media not long ago. He said, what do you think are the top 3 distinctions that make a premium cigar brand successful? Now, my comment on his post was that, in my personal opinion, the 3 most important are consistency, and that is consistency of product, brand management, and consumer engagement.
What I just say.
You just said
exactly.
the same 3 things.
Yeah.
So, Brooks, in your experience, what have you seen are the top 3 for a cigar brand to be successful?
Again, if I was running a cigar business, it would be in the ground in a week. So don't listen to me. Yes, I would be something along the lines of consistency, marketing, and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
because there are different kinds of marketing. Absolutely, yeah.
And Skip, in your experience, and you bring a vast array of experience because from retail before Romacraft and consumer before retail, but in your experience, what do you think are the 3 most important?
I mean, I gave Carney a sarcastic answer. Like swag discounts and swag discounts and jobs and 10 new brands a year.
Oh my God, right?
Here's the real, like, if I look at my company and say, what could I do to make it better? If you have control of your own raw material, There's ups and downsides of doing that. But if you have control of your own raw material, and you have a good ability to identify retailers that are going to work with you the right way, and you can do that efficiently at a scale and just get there and be happy, to me that's where the longevity comes.
Okay.
Because I can tell you all the ways to do it wrong. You know, one, you know, if you're going to a factory that you don't really have a relationship with, and you make something magical, that's and either they're going to stop making it for you, or they're going to make it a lesser quality, or they're going to charge you like crazy.
Yep.
And on the other end, if you have to pay brokers and reps and advertise and do all kinds of commercial activities to make people buy them and promote them, then those two things are putting you at a cost disadvantage, where I feel like in the long run, you can't compete with me. Like if I wanted to, I mean, I could take $20 million, buy some farms, build a nicer factory, and triple my size or quadruple my size, and get to a point where, you know, I'm making 10 million cigars a year, and I could compete with Padron.
Right.
I could do that. I think I have the business skill set to do that. And I think but then there's all these barriers once you reach certain sizes where you have to start doing things you don't want to do and dealing with people you don't want to deal with. And, you know, I think the real thing that's going to happen is these companies that make $1 billion making machine made cigars like J. Cortez or these companies.
Yeah.
Those companies are seeing, they continue to have crazy good margin and a lot of cash flow, but they are seeing that they're not very diversified, and that they want to do something with their cash to make their balance sheet look better. So those kinds of and Scandinavia is one of those companies. I mean, they make the majority of their money from making machine made cigars. Villiger is one of those companies, right? So I think what'll start happening is they try to get into the premium business and penetrate the U.S. market. But what they find is that it's two completely different businesses. I mean, I only make 1 million cigars a year, which means I use about $700,000-800,000 a year of raw material. But I have to have $2-3 million tied up in raw material for years to make that work.
It's all futures. Yeah.
Right. It's very slow return on capital. Right. And then, you know, I'm not trying to knock good retailers, but there is a dysfunction between creating a really good cigar with a good solid brand and consumers who want to buy it, and the channel you have to go through to get that to them.
Yes.
Meaning there's a finite limited amount of good retailers that build new cigar smokers that are going to really treat your brand the way that you want it to be treated.
Yeah.
So there's some great retailers, but they want discounts, they want terms, they want other stuff. And then there's other retailers, their heart's in it, but they're never going to make it, right? And they're the ones that struggle. And they're you give them a box of cigars and it takes them 3 months to turn it, you know. Right. So I think that for us, the magic thing for us is we control our own fate in a lot of ways, because we now have our own pre-industry. We make our own cigars, and we have figured out these cigar stock market pontificators. They're always hitting us saying, well, why would I want to buy the stock of a company that doesn't want to grow or whatever? It's like, well, we're making $1 million a year, free cash flow. Now we're buying tobacco with most of that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not going to you.
Right. But there's a lot of companies out there that aren't near as profitable as we are.
Right.
And we're happy, you know, at the scale we're at. So if you have a lot of money and a lot of time and you don't need to work anymore, and you're willing to spend a lot of time away from your family, cigar brand is a great thing to do, I guess. But
you nailed it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for Apostate, we're in year 3, and that's exactly what it is. We're still in the red operationally, right? We're not at a point where we've made our initial investment back, and that's fine. We knew that, right? That we chose that, and so it's 3 weeks out of a month I'm on the road. My family doesn't see me, and I do that shit because I love it. And I'm here because I love it. I'm not here to make $1 million. And Skip, honestly, like you and I don't know each other, but I've looked up to you forever. I was in retail, and when you guys hit the scene and we started carrying your product, there you were a huge role model for me. And everything you're saying is everything that we've tried to adopt, 100%.
Yeah, and I don't take that for granted.
Yeah,
I try to be generous with my time. Anybody that if you buy a ticket and come to Nicaragua, I will dedicate however much time into helping whoever.
I'll do
right?
it. Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah, man.
But it really depends on what you want to get out of it.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah. What are you trying to do? And for us, it's build community through a new experience, and that's really all there is to it. There's anybody can pick up any cigar. Why would you pick up an apostate? Well, because it's new and it's our take on what's been in existence for hundreds of years, and this is what we're bringing to the table through our personal experience, through our retail experience. We really want you to just buy one of our cigars, sit down for an hour and a half, forget all the shit, and enjoy your life for a second. And if you can do that through our product, I couldn't be happier. It's not about putting $1 million in the bank. That's never going to happen. That's not why we're here. And I think
I love being on an airplane or somewhere, and somebody goes, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" I'm like,
Yes.
I make cigars.
They never expected that answer. Yeah,
Right.
They go,
Never
they're like,
million
"Wait, what?
years.
You-
They go, what? And
Yeah.
then 2 hours later, it's like, man, I wish I did what you did. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
And that's the thing. The other thing you were talking about earlier, when we launched the brand, one of the first phone calls I made was to Matt Booth, because he became a friend through the retail side. Told him we were launching a brand, and I asked for his advice, and he gave me a very Matt Booth answer, and he was like, "Don't do it."
Don't do it. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. That's the Matt Booth answer. I get it. But like, what's your real advice? And his advice turned into like more of that, really. It was like, look, you enjoy cigars, right? Why would you want to turn it into what you do for a living? Why would you want to spoil the fun side of what you enjoy? And I was like, well, dude, it's too late. Like we've got an LLC. We're doing this. He's like, all right, cool. So my advice then is just keep your head down. Always enjoy it. The day you stop enjoying it, fucking walk away.
I mean, there's a feeling. It's hard to describe, and I guess in some way, everybody on this call is a creator, right? Whether it's content or whatever. But when you have an idea, and like I think of a table for our sorting area, and I draw it on a napkin, and I think of all these, how tall does it need to be? How do people rest? How much space does it need to be? And then you see that physically turn into a product from your idea.
Yeah.
That is very fulfilling for me.
Super
right?
fulfilling. Yeah.
So, whether it's, a piece of furniture or whether it's a new product, when I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've never had a feeling like when my very first shipment came from Nicaragua, and the cigar that I had a choice in blending, that had my artwork on it, that was packaged the way I wanted it to be packaged, that tasted exactly the way I wanted it to taste. There's a feeling of being the creator that you don't get in a lot of jobs.
I got emotional when our first shipment arrived, when we had the packaging and the branding and everything locked in, and we got our first shipment, and it showed up at Hive Cigars. And we opened the box.
Oh man,
from the factory.
I can't imagine.
And we saw our vision on a fucking product. And I cried a little. It's fine. But it was, I had chills, man. And that's the thing. I think it's more about fulfilling that creative itch. Knowing that this is something that's going to be in front of people that you had a part in. It's something that exists because you wanted it to, Skip, right? Like, you know what I mean? You're in a creative room and you're like, I want this thing to exist, and now it exists, and people get to give someone else money for it and enjoy it and forget their life for a while. That's fucking awesome. Like, what's $1 million compared to that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, McTavish. So what do you?
Yeah, I have the answer.
Top 3 distinctions that make a premium cigar brand successful.
Yeah, I have the answer, but it's not sexy, and that's capital. Not just
go.
not the initial 30,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 to because any chuckle F can do that. But that just gets you in the door, and you need to really understand the total market capital that you're going to need to make that brand successful, which leads into the second point, which is you need a business plan. So just having the money by itself, that's not a plan. You need a real business plan that's going to carry you through for 2 or 3 or 4 or more years. And then lastly, you need to be able to manage your growth. And that last one is lost on a lot of brand owners because they either get into a situation where they're selling a lot of product and then they run into the problem of number 1 and number 2, where they've run out of capital and they don't have a business plan to manage that growth when they've got into that state. And now they've got the opposite problem where they literally can't buy raw material, and they can't get enough allocation at a factory because you don't own a factory at that level to be able to put out product to maintain the growth that you're at.
Yeah.
So, you need those 3 things, and there's lots of companies that have 1 or 2 of those things, and there's very few companies that have all 3 things. And Skip kind of touched on, and we could do 2 hours on it, but there's sort of stages of growth. You start out as an individual cigar manufacturer, your product is being made out of somebody else's factory, and that is kind of the way that most people start. And it puts you at the worst position for your business because you're not getting the best value, you're not getting the best return on your investment, and you need to basically find a way to move from that stage of your business into the next stage, which is where you own your own factory. And making that move is one of the biggest challenges for a cigar manufacturer, to go from being a brand that's made in somebody else's factory to owning your own factory. And each of those sort of jumps where you go from being in a factory to having a factory with pre-industry, and then, potentially being vertically integrated if you're insane. Each of those comes with its own, huge requirements of capital and business planning. And it's very easy to fail at each and every one of those stages. Skip could probably do 5 hours on it, but.
Oh my God, what a boring answer.
Thank you.
Right, so
what is more artistic and enjoyable than spending the money to make one great and just.
So what we're saying is insanity is the key.
A little bit of
you need to be a little insane.
A little bit of insanity.
You need to hate the money you have, because you're going to be giving it away.
You're just throwing it away.
You're just going to be throwing that money away.
I got to tell you, it does take a certain kind of person to get 150,000 cigar labels,
right?
And then say, this is not the color I wanted, and throw them away.
Jesus Christ. That's happened to me twice. Yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I said fuchsia. How hard is that?
And then have them still end up on the cigars and just fucking hope for the best.
Yeah.
It's like you told the factory, but they didn't listen. Yeah.
All right, so Raleigh, Justin, is it time?
Wait, we got something else to do?
Is
there more stuff?
I think it's time.
Oh,
I think we don't.
Is it time?
All right, it is now time for this week's
Numero de los Muertos.
And as always, Numero de los Muertos is brought to us by our friends at Smoke Inn.
Honesty agree with the goat to tell you about Smoke Inn's Cigar of the Month Club. Every month, I personally handpick 5 premium cigars. Another great feature is our Double Down Club. With a simple check mark, you can get double this great selections every month and save $10. Every month, there's a special discount code where if you like any of the selections, you can get them at a special discounted rate for our Cigar of the Month Club members. We've made it super simple. All you gotta do is log into your account. There's a little green button there. If it's green, you're active. You want to take a break, going out of town, simply hit the button and you'll deactivate your membership. We get the stuff out on the 28th of every month. Our membership bills on the 28th, and we get every member's package out on the 28th if it's a shipping day. All delivered to your door for $34.95. 5 great reasons on what makes Smoke Inn Cigar of the Month Club the best club out there. Check it out. Peace.
Curious about.
Bye.
All right. Numero de los Muertos, episode 254.
That's
The number this week is 22.
Fuck. Okay.
Ooh.
The number is 22. So all of our panelists, along with our viewers, get to play 20 questions to guess what the cause of death was for these 22 people.
Did it involve industrial machinery?
It did not involve industrial machinery.
Okay.
Is it related to disease?
Not related to disease.
Death by Hawk 2.
No,
Talk to us, spit on that thing.
it
on
is
that
not.
thing.
No, it is not related to any viral video sensations.
Would these deaths be considered accidental deaths?
Not so much. No.
Alcohol involved?
Probably not. No.
Firearms.
Maybe
Higher than 22.
Are these household accidents?
No, not household accidents.
Is this workplace accident?
Not workplace accidents.
So firearms.
I got it. This is the number of people killed every year by rogue owls.
The odds are low, but never zero.
The odds are low, but never zero. But it is not rogue owls.
Is it specific?
God, I wish it was rogue owls.
Specific health conditions? Or
Allison said
No.
death from sex swing, and astroglide.
Well,
God, I hope that's the answer.
so
It'd be a lot higher. It'd be a lot higher than 22.
Yeah,
It's more
it's
than
got to be
22,
higher
right?
than 22. No,
I mean, I've heard. I wouldn't know.
running or Jay Davis running a cigar company that was bought by STG and then had cigars made by just ouch.
That's a very specific.
That's so
Very specific.
He went way out of his way
Hey,
to attack
That is
Justin there.
hurtful. Yeah.
Jay
uncalled
Davis,
for.
you
That's hurtful.
always struck me as such a pragmatic
Such a
gentleman.
nice guy. Yeah.
Man,
Ouch.
wow.
Are these
Fired.
deaths worldwide or region specific?
These deaths were specific to the I won't go more specific than this,
All right.
but the United States of America,
Fireworks.
not fireworks.
Fuck.
That's going to be higher than 22.
9-volt battery.
And this was specific to a specific time period,
Okay.
What? Okay.
the early 1800s.
Oh well.
22 people died,
Death by cattle.
not cattle.
I mean, that's got to be a lot every year. Still.
Death by
Buffalo-
arguing with Skip on Facebook. No, Andrew.
Buffalo?
No.
I don't know if anyone's died from that, but
Nobody's ever died from arguing with Skip on
they've
Facebook.
probably wanted to.
Well,
They
you should do the 14-hour special.
They do
You
rage
might,
quit. They do rage quit.
Yeah, they rage quit. It's not going to be due to the elements because it'd be higher than 22.
Yeah.
Is it bullet
Um,
wounds to the ear?
It's not specifically. No, it's not bullet wounds to the ear.
Well,
Yeah.
lighting that street lamp.
Don't say that.
No, it's not
22.
lighting a street lamp.
Exploding steam engine.
Nope.
Wouldn't be birth rate.
You said early 1800s.
Early 1800s.
So it wasn't
Was it-
automotive. It wasn't.
Was it train
Wouldn't be
related?
drownings.
It was
It
not
was
related
not
to
related to
trains.
Kicked in the face by a bison.
No.
Hmm.
It was related to a very particular battle in
Interesting.
the
In the
United
The Alamo.
States.
No, there was more than 22.
The
that
War
died
of
in the Alamo.
1812.
Nope.
Hmm.
It wasn't the Alamo, right? 'Cause that was
1800s.
The Alamo was way higher.
More than 20. More than 22.
Waco.
All right, I'm going to give a very specific clue. This happened in the year 1838.
Is this a Mormon related question?
Maybe.
Did you? Okay.
Is this some sort
No
of
fair.
witch trial?
No fair.
Some
No
sort of-
fair.
Some
Yeah.
sort of witch trial burning?
Not witch trial.
So the pioneer pilgrimage across the plains from Illinois to Utah.
Be way more than 22.
The 1838 Mormon War.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
That's a
Explain that one. Tell me about that.
So as known,
Mormon
also
War?
known, so Brandon has the correct answer. Also known as the Missouri Mormon War.
Yep.
This conflict conflict between. Sorry, I've had a lot of whiskey tonight. This conflict, yeah. Raul is laughing because he doesn't drink, but he feeds me whiskey. Yeah. Now you know my struggle.
I hear you.
All right. So this conflict between Mormons and their neighbors in Missouri resulted in the deaths of 22 people,
including Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram.
This included 3 Mormons and 1 non-Mormon at the Battle of Crooked River.
Mm-hmm.
1 Mormon prisoner who was fatally injured in custody, and 17 Mormon civilians at Haun's Mill.
And who was wounded in custody?
Joseph Smith.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's correct.
Yeah.
1838.
Thank you for the Mormon theme question on
bro, because you were
love
here.
Love it.
The whole apostate theme.
Love it.
I had to do it.
I had to do it. Good one.
So that was this week's Numero de los Muertos.
No.
All right, it is time to reveal this week's Spirit of Mystery.
Which one?
I'm having trouble remembering because
no guesses.
Because since the original Spirit of Mystery pour, I've had, I think, 5 additional shots of whiskey from different bottles behind me. So the original you said was a bourbon that was finished in
red wine,
not port wine, red wine casks.
And this, I poured this because of Skip.
Do you know what kind of red wine cask?
Okay.
Does it say, Raul? Does it say what kind of red wine casks?
No. You see the name of it?
Oh, you're looking. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, you're giving us the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Agitator, Kentucky Straight.
That was for Skip.
What are you saying? Are you saying Skip is an agitator?
No. Stop.
He's a fomenter.
Skip is wonderful.
I'm a gas heater in a world full of snowflakes.
Skip keeps
Brooks has never been agitated by me.
So let me see that label again, Raul.
You're the man, buddy.
So this is Agitator Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey finished in red wine barrels. It is 86 proof. That's why it's so smooth. And
batch number 2.
That's really all we have for this.
So do you think there's more bullshit in the bourbon world now than the cigar world?
No.
Never.
I'd say they're on par.
No, they're close.
They're close.
Never.
Very close. It's very, very close.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into the lightning round brought to us by our friends at J.C. Newman Cigar Company. J.C. Newman, America's oldest family-owned premium cigar maker, creators of the popular Brick House, Perla Del Mar, Diamond Crown, and The American. J.C. Newman Cigar Company operates out of their 113-year-old El Reloj Cigar Factory in historic Cigar City, Tampa, Florida. For more information on their cigars or visitor experience, please visit jcnewman.com.
I think he's got a little slur there.
A little bit.
No. He's doing great.
A little bit. I'm doing just fine. I'm doing just
professional over here.
I'm doing just fine. All right.
By the way, anybody who can take a tour of that JC Newman factory should do it.
Do it.
It is wonderful.
Phenomenal. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are amazing.
So
totally agree with you, Brooks.
Phenomenal.
Our Canadian contingent, John McTavish. So what ingredients would go on your perfect sandwich?
Oh, cock.
Brandon.
Yes, but no.
Sorry.
Probably perfect sandwich. Pulled pork, bacon, mustard, and probably either an aged cheddar or maybe a Swiss cheese.
I like
Sounds
it.
good.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm going to go in-house for our next answer. Justin,
Just to make
ingredients
sandwiches.
on your perfect sandwich.
That's a sandwich guy.
Fucking burger, cheeseburger, done. I don't care.
There you
Easy
go.
peasy.
That's
I
a
love it.
sandwich.
Bacon cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Simple.
All
Simple.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, that's a different show.
It can be.
It's a taco. A hot dog is a taco.
It's a taco.
All right, Brooks. The
this is
on your perfect sandwich.
This is simple. Bananas and mayonnaise.
What?
What?
No. The ingredients
I don't want this guy
on your
reviewing my
perfect
cigars.
sandwich.
I'm sorry, did I stutter?
You may have because
Not at all.
Bananas and mayonnaise.
He was very clear.
Is it Hellman's mayonnaise or is it another brand?
Always.
That
No,
doesn't matter.
Hellman's is absolutely the way to go.
Oh man.
So by the way, this weekend I tried Duke's mayonnaise for the first time in my life.
How is
That's
it?
where I was about to go. That's
I'm
where I was
not
about
that
to go.
impressed. I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
That
I love
impressed.
Duke.
Not as good as
Hellman's all day.
Hellman's, man. Hellman's is the bomb.
And
Yeah.
my wife doesn't get it.
I mean-
she brings home this fucking store brand shit, and I'm like, "Where's the Hellman's?"
I mean,
gotta go
Duke's was okay,
Eh.
but I mean, Hellman's has more saltiness
Yeah, it's
and more
perfect.
sweetness.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Or vinegar.
Americans and
Or
your
vinegar.
mayonnaise, I tell you.
Yeah.
These are people that were
Okay.
raised on Miracle Whip.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Salad dressing. Yeah, man.
All right, Raleigh, ingredients on your perfect sandwich.
Steak and onions.
Steak and that's
That's
it. Steak and onion.
Nothing
Steak and
else.
onions.
You had a sandwich today that was pretty badass.
Yeah, it was
It was brisket.
It was brisket
grilled cheese.
with jalapenos, and I think it was a sharp cheddar.
Dude, you fucking wrecked
Yeah.
that sandwich.
I eat fast.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
help
dude.
it.
You put that shit down so fast.
It was pretty good.
Oh my god.
All right, Brandon, your perfect sandwich.
It's a nice soft wheat bread with Hellman's mayonnaise, deli sliced roast beef, tomatoes, lettuce, probably an Irish cheddar, and a little salt and pepper. Maybe a pickle, depends on the pickle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
No jalapenos.
No jalapeno.
I can really. I dig that.
I'll fuck
I
with
dig
the
that.
roast beef all day.
So
Yep.
so my favorite sandwich is a Cubano.
Love a cabana.
And now here's the problem. I don't know. I know there's a difference between a Tampa Cubano and a Miami Cubano.
Miami's
And
better.
a Havana Cubano.
And a
Yes.
Havana Cubano.
Miami.
So now I only know the Tampa and the Miami. Now, which one has the salami and which one doesn't have the salami?
salami.
Yeah.
There's no salami in the Havana.
No, there is
Yeah.
though. There is.
That's
there's-
got to be Tampa then, because the Miami is not.
So
salami. Yeah.
the Miami is, and for me, it's the Miami. The Miami
Oh,
Cubano is classic.
Oh, it's pernil.
So it's the
pickles.
mojo pork,
Mhm.
it's the Virginia ham, it's the Swiss cheese, and it's the yellow mustard and the pickles.
You need the chicken breast or turkey breast in there.
No.
Outta here.
I'm telling
No.
you, bro.
No. It's got to be what?
No, I don't know what he's talking about.
No, it's got to be. It's only the mojo pork, the ham, the pickles, the cheese,
Who said
and the yellow mustard.
Who said classic New Orleans muffaletta extra everything?
Yeah, who said that? I mean, I don't mind.
That
yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah, Risty, I don't mind a good classic New Orleans muffaletta. That's fantastic.
Do we get
Andrew-
skips yet?
Andrew's not bad.
Uh,
Donna from La Segunda.
a Cubano is just like the perfect sandwich. to
Skip,
me.
what's yours?
White bread, Duke's mayo, chopped brisket, jalapeno, and raw onion.
Oh, I can't. I can't.
I can taste it.
I can't say. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
actually taste.
I can
that sandwich
actually
right now.
taste that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's legit.
What's open right now?
that
I'm
doesn't
hungry.
suck.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
go.
What's
Yeah,
open
who's-
right now?
Who's open?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Forest Lake,
Shit.
Minnesota.
White
Not-
Castles.
Not fucking much right now in Forest Lake, Minnesota.
Cubano on the deck of the Nacional. It's hard to beat, especially at 2 a.m. That's the caveat right there.
John, I'm with you on that, buddy.
That's such a
Rex
humble,
knows what I'm talking about.
that's such a humble
It-
brag.
It may not be the best sandwich in the world, but at 2 a.m.
Oh, no,
on the
it's
deck of the
horrible.
National,
It's
it's the
horrible.
best sandwich in the world.
Bro, at any time
It's
of day,
horrible.
bad.
All right,
But
so I'm
it's great.
getting a lot of great suggestions from
Yeah,
viewers here.
This is a sandwich.
Honestly.
Tony.
Yeah,
So
Tony.
Allison,
Allison.
grilled pastrami,
Oh,
onions, garlic, red bell peppers, manchego, and spicy mustard on a seeded. But
Yeah, the
that,
spicy mustard.
yes,
that doesn't.
and
suck.
Tony Hogan from Crux, grilled pork, pate, cucumber, jalapenos, pickled carrots, daikon, cilantro mayo.
Dude,
Just
just
going for those
You know what
that's
I mean?
next level flavor combination.
What is daikon?
daikon is it's like a radish. It's like a long
Pickled
skinny
pickled
radish.
Korean radish.
Reminds me of horseradish. Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't Allison just call out Cat's Delicatessen?
I think so.
Oh.
I think so. I am loving these suggestions from viewers.
This is a
So,
sandwich
guys,
crowd. Dude,
Yes.
Tony was pretty fucking spot on too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the pate on the grilled pork.
There you go.
I mean, that's a move. That's
the
like a
cucumber
gourmet
is a
move.
texture changer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Tony might be winning right now.
Oh, Jay Davis.
Chicago classic.
Chicago classic. White bread, pork chop with the bone in. Now, okay, mustard, pepper, and salt. I
can eat that right now too.
A sandwich with the bone still in the pork chop. I gotta say no to that. You gotta have the.
Tony, yeah, Tony's describing a banh mi exactly.
Yeah, it's a banh mi.
There's a banh mi in Salt Lake City, and that's when Tony said that. I was like, that sounds okay. Yeah,
exactly.
Nailed it.
Exactly. Yeah.
How you doing, Tony?
But can you beat the classic peanut butter and jelly?
No,
that was almost my answer.
Banana.
There's never a bad time.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Mayonnaise and
So
banana.
are we talking grape jelly or strawberry?
Strawberry.
Strawberry.
Yeah.
Strawberry.
It has to be
On sourdough. Because you need the sourness of the bread to offset the sweetness of the peanut butter and the.
Fucking Gourmandies in Salt Lake City is.
But my like poor ass upbringing is like dollar store bread,
Wonder
like
bread?
leftover
But white bread,
Oh,
though.
Wonder Bread was too
Yeah, yeah.
expensive. It's like fucking leftover day old bread from wherever the fuck and like government issue peanut butter.
I was pretty poor growing up, and I remember.
and homemade strawberry
Dude,
preserves.
government issued peanut butter did not suck.
It did not suck.
I was a
Yeah.
poor kid too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 What about government cheese on a grilled cheese?
No.
Yeah,
It-
government cheese on a grilled cheese.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
please,
No.
please.
Oh, come on. Now, listen, when my father was in the military, and I'm pretty sure that Skip knows something about this, my father used to bring home MREs for us to eat when we were to be punished.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these are the old MREs now. These are not what they're serving now.
They're all
And,
from 1970 or earlier.
This was not food. It was imitation food, to be quite clear.
The only MRE that I ever enjoyed was a fucking beef stroganoff, and it was the date on the package was like 1974. And that
I believe the beef stroganoff was the best tasting.
Beef stroganoff was legit.
I had a lot of MREs
It
in
wasn't beef.
Scouts when I was growing up, and beef stroganoff was the only one that I didn't fucking complain
It
about.
wasn't beef.
Skip, what about you, man?
Skip,
course
what
it
was your
wasn't beef.
Skip? What was your
kangaroo.
favorite MRE?
I was on a submarine, so we ate good. I never had it.
Fucking Navy.
A lot of cock
But
sandwiches.
but I did bring a big ass jar of peanut butter for.
There you go.
Hell
There
yeah.
you go.
Day old bread for a Cubano.
All
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Let's jump into this week's notable smokables brought to us by Don Doroteo, a brand with both purpose and passion, dedicated to creating change from within. By developing their own land, they're able to own the entire process throughout the life cycle of the plant. They methodically carry out each step, ensuring that the final product is of the finest quality. The new Salt of the Earth lines, Piedra Viva and Piedra Angular, are available now at Don Doroteo retail partners. Visit dondoroteo.com to learn more.
Love Dondor.
All right, so notable smokables. Brooks, this is your first time on the show. So notable smokables this is a cigar that you have smoked recently that stood out to you. This could be a cigar that's been on the market for decades that you smoked for the first time in a very long time, or this could be a cigar that you smoked for the first time ever that's brand new to the market. What's something you smoked recently, Brooks, that was notable to you?
Fuente 20th Lancero.
Well, I mean,
That
yeah,
Blue Label Fuente.
I mean,
fucking all day.
we've all smoked like
All day.
boxes and
Fucking
boxes of
great
those.
cigar. Good
Absolutely.
call.
It's amazing.
Good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, definitely. McTavish, what about you? Notable smokable.
I get two off the cuff. The Domain Neutron, which just reviewed recently, San Andre. It's good. It's really good. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the new Chromag Pennsylvania Anthropology. Man,
Hell yeah.
it's fire.
Nice. Let's jump in-house for for the next one. Justin, what's your notable this week?
I'm going with Freud Alter Ego. I think it was Lonsdale size. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Such
haven't had a
good
Freud in a
size.
while.
Such a good size.
Okay.
I think I know who you got that from.
I got that from them at the PCA.
At the PCA trade show. There you go.
At the PCA.
Skip, what's the notable you smoked recently?
I just got a box of the Blue Eyed Jack from Adventura,
Oh, nice.
and it's
Okay.
really different, which is what I liked about it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I tell you something, Aventura is putting out some of the best cigars I've tasted in a while.
Yeah,
I love it
they're
when people
doing
talk
good
about
work.
Adventura.
They're doing good
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Brandon, what's a notable for you?
I got to go with this Black Label Hawaii that Raul gave me. I've always been a Black Label fanboy, but this year's Hawaii is first puff. I was like, God damn, this
Nice.
is really good. Yeah.
Nice. Raleigh, what's notable for you this week?
Well, it's Blackworks Bishop's blend. Just came out this year.
24 Bishop.
I was
Okay.
waiting. I hate to say it, but usually you got to sit on them for about 6 months until they really pop. But these right out the box were delicious.
Yeah.
So my notable this week was, it's Placencia. It's the Alma del Campo.
Oh, great cigar.
And, they're sort of known, or I guess they've sort of become known for like their stronger blends like the Fuego and so on and so forth. But that Campo, that Alma del Campo, it's a little bit more sort of medium, mild. And the flavor profile and aroma profile on that cigar, the Robusto size, I smoked one of those 2 days ago while I was camping with my family. And it was a morning, because I usually, when we're camping, everybody else sleeps in. I'm up at like 6.
Yeah.
Because as soon as
That's
the
how
sun,
camping works.
yeah, I'm up early.
Yeah.
I make coffee and I go and I sit and I have a cigar. And that cigar, just with my morning coffee, it was just like perfect.
Would you think it was more environment or cigar? It had to
I think
be.
it's both, because
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that blend since back in the day when it first came
Because
out.
I mean, 7 a.m. by yourself camping, pretty much whatever you.
Oh,
pick
yeah.
is gonna kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. So it was a combination, definitely. But that blend just really, really works. Definitely. All right, let's jump into coming attractions. Stuff coming up soon on How About That Cigar Live. And that is brought to us by our friends at Hoagland Insurance. They are excited to serve and educate any new customers and give existing customers a refresher. Whether it's a business policy, auto insurance, home policy, or life insurance, if you are currently insured or just looking for a quote, Tony Hoagland and his team would love to create a price plan just for you. Mention How About That Cigar when you make your first appointment, and Tony will have a free cigar just for you. For more information, please call 763-421-4900 or visit champlininsurance.com. All right, next week on August 5th, we have Mr. BDP Mike Palmer from Poshik Cigars on the show. A brand new position, and we know how much he loves new positions.
He doesn't want one position; he wants all position.
Exactly. And then on August 12th, we have Mike Giordano and Michael Giannini from Quality Importers on the show.
The two best mics I know.
The two best mics, exactly. So let's go around the horn, if we could, please. Brooks, if you would please let everyone know where is the best place for our viewers and listeners to keep up with everything going on over at Half Wheel.
Halfwheel.com.
There you go. I love it. Simple and concise and to the point. Surgeon John McTavish, where is the best place for everyone to keep up with everything developing pallets?
Developingpallets.com, and apparently I'm in high demand this week because I'll be on Primetime Live on Thursday, and then I'll be on also Fomar Takes on Sunday. So a busy week of shows for me.
Hell yeah.
I love it. Brandon, where is the best place for everyone to keep up with Apostate Cigars?
ApostateCigars.com. The website is all inclusive, but if you're just social media centric, Instagram at Apostate Cigars, and that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Mr. Martin, Skip Martin, if you would please let everyone know where's the best place to keep up with Roma Craft Tobacco.
Probably Instagram. Whatever you do, don't follow my personal Facebook page. That's probably. I don't.
Do people?
Please do that. Oh, please do that.
Oh God!
Please.
No, my personal Instagram is more fun. You know, it's more food and pictures of Fiorella. But
I beg to differ.
No, I think the personal Facebook is the
Skip. I'm coming to your personal Facebook.
Yeah,
You're gonna
absolutely.
Have to watch for
that's
me.
the place to go for all the.
I haven't accepted a new follow request in like years, so I
want to make the cut so bad.
Yeah.
You know.
I am going to be tomorrow night. I'm going to be in New York City. I'm doing a rooftop event in Brooklyn, and so that's going to be nice. I think it's all sold out. But that'll be fun. And then I'm doing La Cultura on the way back, August 3rd, I think, or 2nd at La Cultura. And we're launching our new craft maquette, the Mastranza, the La Mastranza.
Nice.
And it's really good.
Nice.
You know what? That's a good call. I'm sorry, guys. As far as Apostate being out and about, I'm in Minnesota the rest of the week, and then August 24th through 31st, I'm going to be cruising with Crystal Herbert, our rep on the East Coast. We're going through PA. We're going to do 6 events in 8 days: New York, New Jersey, Delaware. So hit up the website. You'll see our cigar event page, apostatecigars.com.
And for the next 2 days, he has security with him. So.
Yeah,
Don't fuck around.
Local firefighter, Raul.
I got my muscle.
Both of us. Yeah,
both of us. He's got both of us security.
I feel so safe.
I basically just said I'm gonna fuck off my day job and just hang with these guys.
I feel so safe.
You know, whatever. You know, what are you gonna
Skip, we can't wait for you to come up to Minnesota.
Yeah, Mike.
I don't really do very many events.
We don't want you to do events. Come up and hang out with us.
Just come to my house. I'll fucking cook for you.
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old, man. She doesn't approve my.
Hey, I got an 18-year-old daughter who's a babysitter. Just fucking bring her here.
Shit, I got grandkids that can hang out with her.
It'll all be good.
She doesn't approve my travel, and she only flies first class, so it's expensive.
Oh well, yeah. There's
that sounds like Charlie.
Well, for all our panelists, guys, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was another fantastic Hive Mind show. We appreciate you so much, and we wish you all the best in the future. Can't wait to hook up again soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And for our viewers and listeners, guys, you are so great. We are so grateful for you being the best part of How About That Cigar Live. If you have been live on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, or Rumble, we are grateful for you guys. As you can see on the screen right now, click on all those big, beautiful buttons. The subscribe button, the like button, the follow button. That means so much to us, and we are so grateful for you guys giving us your time. And of course, if you are one of our fantastic audio podcast listeners, thank you so much for being a part of How About That Cigar and making us a part of your regular audio podcast rotation. If you have a question for us, make sure to email us on the website, howaboutthatcigar.com, and follow us on all social media at HBT Cigar. And of course, as always, until we see you guys next time, burn cigars,
not bridges.
Thanks, guys. Any comments, opinions, viewpoints, or statements presented or uttered by guests on the HBTC podcast, HBTC live video streams, and all other media from HBT Media LLC are solely those of the individual and do not necessarily represent the opinions or viewpoints of How About That Cigar or its parent company, HBT Media LLC, any of our advertising partners, or the premium cigar industry. The primary purpose of How About That Cigar is to entertain and to encourage activity and growth within the community of people who enjoy or want to learn about the enjoyment of premium cigars.